Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I am doing a live stream on YouTube on February 5th. This is also going to be republished on the different channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble, so make sure you subscribe to all those channels. I'm having a problem with the feed into direct feed for the live stream for Rumble, so it's only going to be on YouTube. I apologize for that. So I'm also going to have a live stream on my website through YouTube. So, and then the X Spaces simulcast. So please join. Thank you for watching or listening. The some of the things that I want to talk about today are obviously the buyouts for the FBI, the buyouts for the CIA, what's going on with potential restructuring plan for Gaza that Trump talked about yesterday, and the nominees that are starting to shepherd through the Senate. So there's a lot to talk about today. Unfortunately, today we won't have a telemetry dashboard on the other feed because of this issue that I have with Rumble. So hopefully tomorrow we'll have that. But thank you for joining, and hopefully you have your coffee. All right, I have my coffee. There's a lot to cover today. Like I said before, 2025 is going to have about 10 years of history packed into one, and you can kind of feel it through the Trump administration. But before we begin, please help support my work by making sure you subscribe to all the channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube: Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Please help support the free content that I provide. I provide thousands of videos for free, covering international news, domestic news, health and wellness, scientific discoveries, understanding about how the human body works, especially discoveries in biotech, lots of things, right? Also finance and the economics, domestically and internationally, on how it may affect your life, especially your portfolio. So please make sure you subscribe, but donate. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And you can be a paid member to my Patreon channel. It's through the donations and ones that are paid members on Patreon that allow me to do these videos for free, all right? So please help support. And the ones that purchase the products also help support the channel to be able to reach this content to an audience to help with their wellness, their health and wellness. I have very unique perspectives on how to stack certain supplements to target certain problems in your body. So if you pay attention to what I have to say, you can really improve your health. But not just that, if you pay attention to what I have to say, you can actually make some money in the market. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work by donating, being a paid member to Patreon, and buying the products that I offer. One product that I have that is a very high quality product is the structural nano silver soaps. I have in stock the charcoal tea tree. So get a couple soaps for your household, very high quality, way better than the chemically laden soaps that you're getting at the grocery store typically. And also I have these great deodorants. I partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we developed these deodorants with dual purpose for males and females. You can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, or in citrus. These are made from essential oils from the Himalayas. It has no aluminum and no baking soda. It's all natural ingredients. You use it as a deodorant every day, but it also will help to detoxify your body. It's very important to detoxify your body. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get these great deodorants that I have. It's for males and females. Help support your health and help support my work. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and make sure you use discount 5. You get $5 off. It's all caps, discount 5, the number 5, and you get $5 off. So with that, let's begin with Bloomberg and see where we're at with the news. But there's a lot to cover today.
margins. That's typically a late cycle type of an economic barometer. So I want to make sure that people still have exposure to fixed income and are not just.
What's going on here?
60-40 Jermaine anymore. What do you think? I think so.
Got full alternatives in there too. People say have some.
We heard that from Krishna Mamani yesterday at lunch.
Exactly.
Very big. Okay, we're going to do this now, and I do think it's germane to our American audience. You're going to say, Marcus Rashford, who cares? But the answer is, this is really, really an interesting story. Joining us now, our Aston Villa correspondent out of New Jersey. We'll get to fixed income here, his expertise at Bloomberg Intelligence as well. Ira, this guy scores, and he points a finger at his head because he's totally inward with a drive. Let's begin with the failure at Manchester United. What happened?
So I think Marcus Rashford just didn't get along with some of the managers at United, and he probably needed a move. For Villa, they got rid of their #2 striker and sent him to Saudi Arabia for a lot of money. So they needed to backfill because we've talked about this before. But Aston Villa playing in both the Champions League and the Premier League, they needed more depth. And if you look at their record after Champions League games in the Premier League, they only have one win after 8 different Champions League games in the Premier League. So yeah, they needed more depth, and someone like Rashford makes a lot of sense.
But there's got to be huge equivalents in American football, in American baseball, in the NBA as well. The kid, Paul's 27 years old. Mm-hmm. And he can score on a whim. Whenever he decides he needs to score, boom, he's done. What's he going to add to Aston Villa? I mean, this has got to be magic for them, right?
Well, Ollie Watkins, who's the #1 striker at Aston Villa, I would say is on par with Rashford, at least in recent form. But I think it gives Rashford more of a platform, and certainly going into a World Cup year next year, I think Rashford wants to put himself in the shop window. And because he wasn't getting any minutes at United, going to Villa makes a lot of sense for him. Maybe he gets a trade, and then he wants to play in the World Cup roster.
And he would be on the English. He'd be on the English team, right?
Yeah. So he and Ollie Watkins are both English strikers. So, but if Rashford wants to be in the squad at all, he's going to need to play. And managers at the international level don't pick players who aren't on the pitch.
Lisa, was that enough soccer talk?
Yes, please.
Why don't we talk about Aston Villa having Black Sabbath come and play there on July 5th? So that's what I'm excited for too.
Oh, come on, Si. We care about Black Sabbath. I mean, come on. I mean, where are we? Can we get a weekend update? Did you buy the tickets, Lisa, for the weekend at MetLife?
No, and I had someone in tears, but that's okay. I'm hardcore.
Ira's chasing with Black Sabbath in July. Paul, save us.
All right, Ira, I've got my 10-year treasury kind of drifting down here. We're not below 450. We're at 446. What are you seeing in your treasury market these days?
Yeah, so I think people are risking, and Brett, your last guest talked about this, is that growth expectations are coming down just a little bit in the fear of of a tariff war, right? So when you have a trade war, that yes, you might get slightly higher prices in goods in particular over the near term, but importantly, it usually slows down economic activity, and with slower economic activity means a rally in rates. Importantly, if we close below 4.49% on the 10-year, that's actually a pretty important technical level. So, so the next stopping point would be down toward under 4.25%. Actually,
really?
If you look at the big move, yeah, we've broken a pretty. Basically, yields have been trending upward since last September, and we've now broken that trend line, which is a pretty big signal, I think, for the market that. Look, the risk now is for rates to rally, not rates to sell off a little bit more.
So what is that? I mean, if you're the Fed, do you just, again, kind of sit back and say, the market's kind of working for us?
I think so. And certainly the fact that you had, long-term interest rates move up a little bit, that did a little bit of the Fed's job in terms of trying to quell inflation and inflation expectations, which have obviously turned around a little bit since the tariff implications. I think from the Fed's perspective, and you even heard Mary Daly talk about this yesterday, saying we can be patient. And I think that the Fed is going to skip March again. from my perspective, Paul, what that means is over time, the longer the Fed is on hold, the less likely it is that they're going to cut again sometime in the future. So, you know, and if, you know, we all talk about R star and where the real neutral rate is and the like. Personally, I think we're probably close to being there. I think 4% on the funds rate is probably pretty close to neutral. And unless the economy really falters, the Fed can do nothing.
I guess a two-part question. I'll let you go with it, Ira Jersey. The answer here is I got a 2.03 10-year real yield. To me, that's a shock on this Wednesday morning. What does the signal of a 1.99% 10-year inflation-adjusted yield?
Yeah, so we've obviously come back a lot. The fact that we were at 1.5%, now we're closer to 2%, is a signal that the market thinks that growth is still reasonably good. And yes, we've rallied a little bit. You know, certainly this week we've seen real yields go from 2.25% down to 2%. But you're still at 2%, suggesting that you're going to have okay growth going forward. If the market was really concerned about a near-term recession, you'd wind up seeing 10-year real yields probably closer to 1.5 to 1.25% than where they are right now.
So what's the next data point that we should be looking at? And please don't tell me it's an auction I got to follow.
Thank you.
No, although Paul, we did have the refunding announcement today, but it was a snoozer, so I won't talk about that. It was exactly as we expected.
Right.
Yeah, it's got to be Friday's employment report, right? Like, you know, so wages.
Right.
Do we still have decent job growth? And if all of those things happen, you wind up, you know, probably with the 10-year yield not doing much of anything, but the 2-year yield might actually sell off a little bit and wind up with slightly higher yield, say the 4.3% or so.
It's like watching paint dry. What are money market funds doing, Ira? Are we just putting ever more trillions of dollars in money market funds at 5%?
We're pretty close to $7 trillion in money fund assets, and you know, there's this insatiable demand for T-bills right now. So that you know, there are some people who are really worried that you know, there's this wall of T-bills that needs to be refinanced. Don't worry about it, because money market funds are going to own all of them. So.
YouTube is lit up. Ira, help me here. I got Ozzy, Tony, Geezer, and Bill, July 5 at Villa Park. Explain for Birmingham what a big deal it is to have the lads from Birmingham bring it all back 40 years later.
Well, Ozzy Osbourne talks about himself as being the biggest front man to come out of Birmingham, and I would have to agree with that. That's number one. And number two, this is the first time that Black Sabbath has gotten together for 20 years. So they're playing Villa Park, which is their hometown. So, you know, 30 years ago, I went around the Birmingham pub scene looking at all the alternative rock and hard rock bands that were playing, trying to do what Black Sabbath did 30 years before that. And I have to say, it's definitely a good town for music.
Ira Jersey, thank you for our report, our Black Sabbath correspondent this morning, particularly our Marcus Rashford. I don't understand it, but I guess it's a huge deal. It'd be like the Lions losing, you know, their quarterback. It would probably be.
Well, that's not a big
deal. Running right on the screen right now. We're open in 12 minutes with our news. In New York City, Michael Bond.
Thank you very much, Tom, Paul, Lisa. President Donald Trump is proposing taking over Gaza, rebuilding it, and relocating over 2 million Gazans.
I think the potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable. And I think the entire world, representatives from all over the world will be there, and they'll live there. Palestinians also. Palestinians will live there. Many people will live there.
Trump's proposal was welcomed in Israel, but rejected in the Arab world. President Trump's Gaza proposal has drawn a quick reaction in Washington, as we hear from Bloomberg government reporter Jack Fitzpatrick.
The resources it would take and the level of U.S. involvement, if you take the president at his word and interpret this as a sincere plan, would be massive. And that's why it would take a lot of congressional involvement, a lot of U.S. resources.
Bloomberg government's Jack Fitzpatrick in Washington. The U.S. Postal Service said this morning that it's accepting now all international inbound mail and packages from China and Hong Kong posts, hours after the agency announced a halt on some shipments. Postal Service, in an emailed statement, said the USPS and Customs and Border Protection are working closely together to implement an efficient collection mechanism for the new China tariffs to ensure the least disruption to package delivery. It comes after President Trump had revoked a rule for China which previously allowed small packages under $800 to enter the U.S. duty-free. Police are searching for a male suspect in a workplace shooting at a cosmetics warehouse in Ohio that left a worker dead, 5 others wounded. The Albany Police Chief Greg Jones said that there were no reports of any kind of confrontation or dispute that would have prompted last night's shooting. Jones says the suspect had been at work for some time before the shooting. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg. Tom Paul, Lisa.
Guys, Irish Jersey out front. I mean, this thing in Birmingham, England is like Metallica's going to play, Pantera, Sammy Hager's going to be there.
Nice.
Limp Bizkit, some of the people from.
I mean, even I know that's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I mean, this is like a metal Nirvana thing back. I mean, I don't even mention the band Nirvana. Jonathan Davis of Korn. Remember when Korn broke? It was like, are you kidding me?
Who's Pantera?
Who's Pantera? That's not American, Lisa. Come on. I'm sorry. Slash is going to be.
All right, just the markets haven't opened up yet. The markets will be opening up in 10 minutes or so, but the currency markets and some of the future markets are. So what I want to just bring up is the Euro USD is trading at 1.04 and oil is trading at $71.71 a barrel. And the USD Japanese yen is trading at 153.13 at this moment in time. So we'll see how the markets open up. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to a video about military. I think this is about troops potentially going to Gaza here. Yeah. So this is CNN. Military expert makes prediction on how many troops Trump may need to seize Gaza. All right, so before we go to that, please help support my work. Get the great supplements that I have on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. One great supplement that I have is the structural nano silver toothpaste. It has no fluoride. It'll whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, help with your gum line health, reduce inflammation, neutralize pathogens, reduce plaque. And when you use this and you improve your oral hygiene, you're reducing the chances of cardiovascular disease and you're reducing your chances of valvular disease. It's a big problem in the geriatric patient groups when they have poor oral hygiene. So please take my advice, get a few tubes of this toothpaste, use this toothpaste every day. Make sure your household's using it and improve your health and improve your oral hygiene. It has the structural nano silver in it. It's very high quality. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get a few tubes of this toothpaste and make sure you use discount 5. Now, another great product that I have that I want to talk about is the lozenges. I have the lozenges in Manuka honey and also in elderberry zinc. There's 21 in each package. It's made from structural nano silver. And get a few bags for this household. Be prepared for the cold season and for the allergy season. The moment you have that irritation, start taking them right away. You want to mitigate the problem. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the very high quality structural nano silver lozenges in elderberry zinc or in Manuka honey. Now the Manuka honey lozenges have a 60 parts per million structural nano silver, and the same for the elderberry zinc. It's also 60 parts per million. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use these during the cold season and during the allergy season. Okay, let's play CNN here on this topic about Trump. Trump was asked a question when he had his press conference with Netanyahu, and he said basically troops may be needed in Gaza. U.S. troops may be needed in Gaza to stabilize and clean up the mess. Trump's proposal is that the United States takes control over Gaza, basically annexes it, then there is a migration out of Gaza. The Palestinians leave Gaza and move into other regions within the Middle East, either in multiple regions or in one region. He was open either way. And this is basically the grand restructuring plan, kind of like almost a Marshall Plan in a post-Israel-Gaza war. We'll see how it pans out. But one of the reporters asked if troops would need to be needed, and he said yes. Well, he wasn't ruling it out. Let's just put it that way. But this is at the same, maybe not in magnitude, but it's in the same vein, and it has a similarity to, I think, the Marshall Plan of restructuring of World War II. All right, I'll tell you that, like I said, there is a lot of history being packed in 2025. 10 years of history is getting packed in 2025 because of this accelerated chaos activity of the Trump administration. Now, there was another thing that I wanted to bring up here. Oh, I'm live streaming on my website now and on YouTube, but also I'm simulcasting on X Spaces. So if you would like to do a call-in on X Spaces or just to listen, that's fine. But if you would like to ask a question or tell me your opinion about what's going on with the news that we're covering today, please do. You can do that on X Spaces. I have 2 channels on X. It's the larger channel on X that has the X Spaces. So with that said, let me play the CNN video here. This was published about 2 hours ago.
That assessment is true. That the belief is that the United States will handle Hamas. The United States will facilitate the desires of Israel. Trump didn't rule out deploying troops. So what kind of operation would this require to try to aid in the displacement of every person there and rebuild the country? And I would note, I can imagine that would be met with some hostility.
Yeah, to say the least, Laura, I think it would be met with hostility as well. Keep in mind, Hamas still has fighters in Gaza, and they're still fairly numerous in spite of all that Israel has done to destroy that particular guerrilla outfit. So the way it would look, it would be a huge logistical undertaking. I remember the pier that was attempted during the Biden administration that basically failed at the end because of high seas and other logistical issues. That was designed to help with the humanitarian aspect of the Gaza problem. So that's just one small part. There'd have to be a huge airlift that would go in there. The Israelis at any one time kept at least 10,000 troops in Gaza during the height of their efforts, and more, of course, as they rotated through. So you would see a deployment of somewhere between 10 to 20,000 U.S. troops potentially in a situation like this, plus air cover, plus intelligence assets, plus logistical assets of various types. We'd have to bring in Navy assets. So it would be a very large undertaking, and it would be one of the things that would really force us to take the eye off the ball in other areas, such as Ukraine, such as Taiwan, such as other parts of the world where the president has also expressed some interest. So this is a major area that would require a recalibration of U.S. military resources as well as intelligence resources, and it's something that I don't think has been thought out very carefully.
Now that raises a particularly ominous point, David, the idea of taking one's resources and reallocating them across or focusing on a particular area. What would that portend for other controversies and potential conflicts? But I want to hone in on a point that was earlier raised. Trump said that Jordan, that Egypt, they would, quote, give us the land we need, unquote, to house Palestinians. I recall that both countries have already publicly said that they would never do that. So what would change now?
I would suspect that it's the Sinai Peninsula. That's probably what's going to happen here.
For much necessarily would change. The King of Jordan is supposed to be in Washington next week, and I guess we'll have a chance to hear from him. But he's already got a huge Palestinian population that is in many ways destabilizing to his own country. Just go back for a moment to the point that Cedric was making here. President Trump, in his first run for president, made a big case, understandably so, for ending the forever wars that locked the United States down in Iraq and Afghanistan. So it's a little bit surprising to hear him talk about the possibility of a major and what would have to be sustained for 15, 20 years U.S. presence there. It's also going to divide his own administration. He's hired people who believe we shouldn't be in Ukraine or the Middle East. We should be devoting those resources to the Asia Pacific and particularly to containment of Chinese power for defending Taiwan. And it's going to be a really interesting argument if this one, continues along those lines. And then to try to convince Jordan and Egypt.
All right, let's see.
How are you backing up your business critical Microsoft?
All right, so the market has opened up. It just opened up. The S&P 500 is trading at 6,024. VIX is trading at 16.96. The Euro USD is trading at 1.04. Oil is trading at 71.65. BITO, Bitcoin Long ETF, is trading at 23. And the USD Japanese yen is trading at 153.01. All right, let's go back to another news post. All right, this is FBI agents are suing Trump's DOJ efforts. So let's go with that.
Welcome back. 9 FBI agents are filing a lawsuit to protect the identity of any Bureau employee who worked on the January 6th investigations. The agents claim any effort to review or discriminate against those employees would be unlawful or retaliatory. This comes after the FBI sent a questionnaire to thousands of its employees asking them to detail their work on January 6th cases. Joining me now is Fox News contributor and former FBI special agent Nicole Parker. Nicole, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And I guess my first thought is, well, if they didn't do anything wrong, why are they afraid to tell us they worked on January 6th? I mean, you say the employees who are being asked to fill out these questionnaires fall into 3 groups. Tell me more.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that, yes, I was working at the FBI as a special agent in the Miami division when this occurred, and I never touched anything January 6th related. I was not asked to, nor would I if I had been asked to. And so I just want to put that out there. There are many individuals, they're saying to the tune of about 5,000 people that as of right now are on this list. And again, this is open source. That's a very large number of FBI employees. It's not just agents, but it also includes support staff. But I think that there are 3 groups of people at the FBI right now. There are those in group number 1, they never touched January 6th, they were never asked to, or if they were asked to, they said, I'm not comfortable doing that, or I don't feel that this is right, or, something of that nature. Group number 2 are individuals that were asked to conduct January 6th investigations, and frankly, they didn't feel exactly comfortable with it. They almost did it begrudgingly, but they did it because that's their duty, and that's what they were asked to do, and that's you follow your chain of command. You're told to do something, and so therefore you follow what you're supposed to do. Group number 3 are individuals that were asked to, and it seems that they almost embraced the opportunity to do so. They were very enthusiastic about working this investigation. And I think it's the last 2 groups that it's important to notice the distinction between those. But I think when you are an FBI agent, the most important thing is that you take an oath and you are sworn to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution in a fair and unbiased manner. And Maria, I think there were many individuals at the FBI who saw what was happening on this January 6th investigation, and they noticed that it definitely was unprecedented because, first of all, the FBI has never been in the business of conducting misdemeanor investigations. That's just not really what the FBI does. And out of all of the individuals that were charged, they were predominantly misdemeanors. So again, that causes red alarms and, red flags to go off in people's minds. Secondly, this was a very politically charged investigation. They were literally investigating.
Breaking news, Kenya's central bank cuts benchmark rate.
Orders of a certain political figure.
Right.
And again, that is unprecedented in FBI history as well. And so that's what gave pause to many employees to say, you know what, I'm not so certain about how this is going. But remember, this was being driven by Merrick Garland. He was pushing down these commands from DOJ to Christopher Wray, who acquiesced and said, okay, we're on board, we're going to do this. And they were very proud that this was the largest ever investigation in DOJ and FBI history.
Unbelievable.
I was a witness to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. I don't understand how that can be when we lost 3,000 people on 9/11, but yet January 6th was much larger than that.
Well, that's a great point to make. I mean, and then later we find out that there were 26 FBI informants in the crowd in plain clothes. I mean, and that number seems low to me. So how do you actually, explain that? Why were there FBI agents or informants, whatever you call it, in the crowd making believe they were?
Bitcoin's trading at about 98,000
supporters.
Again, that's a completely different topic that I could, give an explanation. There are confidential human sources at the FBI. It's important to note that they may be sources, but they may not be tasked to perform duties on that date. But again, the FBI, the issue is that a lot of people do not trust what the FBI is saying because they have lacked a sense of transparency, especially in the last 4 years. And so, unfortunately, the trust in the FBI is at an all-time low, but that's because there has been a lack of transparency. I know that we talked about the pipe bombs that were set, and there have been no answers to that, really, as to what happened. And now we're finding out that the FBI said, data that was received from different, telephone companies was quote, corrupted.
Yeah.
Not on purpose, but, they were able to get certain data. And I think just the American people want transparency. They want answers.
Right.
And President Trump ran on depoliticizing the FBI and the DOJ.
And you're right. Lawmakers are now demanding answers about cellular data from the January 6th pipe bomb suspect who's still on the loose. Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, and Congressman from Georgia, Barry Loudermilk, sent a letter to the acting FBI director, AT&T, Mobile, and Verizon, questioning why the FBI official in charge of the pipe bomb probe told Congress that some of the suspects' data was corrupted by one of the providers. Major cellular carriers told House investigators that they never provided any data that was corrupted to the FBI, and the Bureau never reached out about any issues with the data. So why is it corrupted now, Nicole?
That is a great question, Maria, but I can tell you that I personally walked away from the FBI after more than a dozen years because I felt like the trajectory had changed. I felt like things were just so completely politically and socially weaponized that those of us in the organization that were just trying to do the real work, trying to put bad people behind bars, working crimes against children, these are the noble cases of the FBI. This is what they should be focusing on. But unfortunately, especially in the last 4 years, it has been deeply and socially weaponized, and I just feel like they've lost sight of their mission. But I do hope that with Pam Bondi coming in, she is going to be incredible. She's going to be a solid attorney general, and I have no doubt she will get DOJ and FBI back on track with Kash Patel.
Yeah, let's talk about that because the Senate confirmed Pam Bondi as AG in a vote 54-46 yesterday. But FBI Director nominee Kash Patel is still waiting for a committee vote. Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee are now demanding that they have another hearing with Kash Patel, hoping to question him about recent removals of FBI leaders while also claiming that he made apparent falsehoods during the last week's hearing. Nicole, Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley shot down the idea and is hoping to hold a final committee vote as soon as next week. I'm still questioning why it is that you've got 53 Republicans and 47 Democrats, and it seems the Democrats run the table in these confirmation hearings. Now they want more time with Kash Patel.
I don't know, but what I do know is that the FBI is in dire need of true leadership right now. They need solid leadership, they need stability, and they need someone to get in there and to get some level of direction and to put everything in order. And I think with Kash Patel and Pam Bondi together at DOJ and FBI, I have no doubt that they are fully going to make the FBI great again, the DOJ great again, but it is going to take some work. I think that there are individuals who have been responsible for kind of taking the FBI off the rails and they do need to face consequences.
Yeah, and don't forget John Ratcliffe running the CIA.
All right. Well, now 8 minutes ago, Trump and President Xi had a phone call. So let's jump into that. That was published just about 9 minutes ago.
Park City is a place where you can ski and ride through an endless snow globe. Here, you can come and be yourself. Because
Welcome back. Well, the U.S. Postal Service says it will stop accepting shipments from China and Hong Kong after President Trump imposed new tariffs on Beijing and closed a loophole that allows companies to avoid tariffs if they ship packages less than $800 directly to U.S. consumers.
I think that her publication is before the breaking news that the U.S. Postal Service restores delivery of incoming parcels from China and Hong Kong. So my understanding is that it's been restored. So let's just skip this because I think this part is old news. All right. I want to go to, let's go to Bloomberg here for a second.
Those concerns about when the billions of dollars that are spent by the tech industry on AI is going to start to pay off. We'll start with the NASDAQ down 0.4%, 96 points. The S&P 500 down 0.1%, 8 points. We have the Dow up 0.1% or 44 points. We have the 2-year yield at 4.19%, down 1 basis point. The yield on the 10-year 4.45%, and that's down 6 basis points. We have the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index down about 0.2%. To earnings, want to point out Disney because it's been going back and forth all morning. Right now, shares down nearly 1%. Then we go from Moana 2 because that's a big thing for Disney to Barbie because Mattel is up 13%. Better than expected fourth quarter results. It also said, though, it may have to raise the price of its toys like Barbie and Hot Wheels because that's to offset the cost of tariffs on goods made in Mexico and China, where a lot of its products come from. And then Oreo cookie maker Mondelez, their shares down this morning. Annual forecast, organic revenue profit fell below expectations. And finally, some travel news. Some more U.S. tourists are sticking to the States. Unless you're Tom Keene, the European Travel Commission says the number of U.S. travelers going to European trips, well, they fell the lowest level since 2021.
Yeah, I'm seeing way more emails. You'll love Dubrovnik. Let us get you to Dubrovnik,
Enticing you, okay.
I'm on YouTube. I'm they said to me, we're doing live chat on YouTube. And I said, I don't care. And it's fabulous. We mentioned Black Sabbath. Thank you, Ira Jersey. Some guy's first concert was in sync. Andreas, get a life. This is great. His first concert was cheap.
All right, I'm going to go to Fox 24. They're talking about the West Bank reaction to Trump's Gaza plan. After this, I'll give you my perspective on it. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work by getting the great supplements that I have, very high quality, and it's something that I take daily. The probiotic, you can get it in powdered form or in veggie cap. They're both very high quality. You should be taking it every day. The reason why you want to take a probiotic is to bring down GI inflammation. So your gut inflammation, you want to bring that down. And by bringing down that inflammation, what's going to happen is you're going to improve your immune system in your gut. Your gut has a mucosal lining, and if it's inflamed, what happens is that mucosal lining starts to recede. So you want to maintain a good barrier within the inner lining of your gut. Not just that, by taking a good probiotic, you're going to improve your metabolism, and you're going to improve your energy, the amount of energy that you're absorbing. So the efficiency of the absorption is going to be better. Your communication between your gut and your liver will improve. That means that you're going to be able to detoxify your body better because the liver is a major detoxification organ. And not just that, you are going to be able to have a better communication between your gut and your brain. So with a good gut biome, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to sleep better. You're going to have more mental acuity. You're going to be able to think more clearly. And when you're well rested, you're sleeping better. You're detoxifying your body, right? Your central nervous system, especially. So that's really important. And on top of that, having a good gut biome can mitigate depression. All right. Some people are depressed. Actually, it's actually their gut that's causing it. So, poor gut biome or, poor gut health. So, but it's not the only reason. But the thing is that for some people, depression is associated with poor gut biome. So there are multiple benefits of taking a good probiotic. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the probiotic in powdered form, which is what I take. I mix it with soft foods. You can mix it with filtered water or the veggie cap version. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, get $5 off, get a few products from my store, and get healthy. I tell you throughout this whole transmission how to stack the different supplements if you don't want to take everything, all right? How to stack the different supplements to be able to target certain systems. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right, let's go to France 24, talking about the West Bank's reaction to Trump's Gaza plan. So the Gaza plan is basically a restructuring plan that the United States is going to spearhead, or that's what Trump wants to do. So let's see what France 24 has to say about it, and then I'll give you my opinion.
Well, Israel's former public security minister and far-right politician Itamar Ben-Gvir praised Trump's stance that Gazans should be resettled outside of Gaza, calling it the, quote, only solution. We're going to talk more about all of this now with France 24's Mark Owen, who's live for us in Jerusalem. Mark, you've been talking to people in Jerusalem, and what's the reaction been like from there?
Can you imagine if during the presidential election campaign in the US, Donald Trump had actually suggested this, along with that idea of perhaps sending US troops to the Gaza Strip? I wonder how that might have affected the outcome of that vote back in November. The people I've spoken to in the old city in Jerusalem earlier today, they were perplexed about what's been suggested, and the idea of relocating people didn't go down well with them. We've also been to Bethlehem, which is, of course, I remind you, in the West Bank. We all have a biblical idea of Bethlehem, but it's a town in the West Bank where Jesus Christ was born. People there really, again, sort of really thinking, well, what exactly is Trump trying to play at here? The land belongs to Palestinian people. They say they should have the right to stay in their land. One said to me earlier, if they offered everybody $1 million each, well, maybe that might sort of force people's hands into going. But we all know that isn't going to actually happen. In terms of the political reaction in Israel, there's been predictably large, warm reaction from Israel's far right, Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, who has ambitions to annex the West Bank as well as the Gaza Strip. He's lapped this up, saying that it's a great idea. Thank you, President Trump, says Avigdor Lieberman of Israel Beitanu, for engaging for the security of Israel. Smotrich, thank you, Trump. Itamar Ben-Gvir, a notable far-right figure, push them to leave, he says. And even the president of the Knesset is saying this is the dawn of a new day.
Mark, you've been doing a lot of reporting, as you were saying, in the West Bank. I mean, tell us a bit more about what you learned there and about other Palestinian reaction.
The West Bank, in terms of what is happening there, there's an ongoing Israeli military operation across the territory. Residents we've spoken to have said it starts to feel like a new Gaza Strip situation. We've reported from places like Jenin and from Tulkarm in the north of the West Bank, where families being forced out of their homes in no uncertain terms, often with threats of violence from the Israeli soldiers. They're wondering whether they'll ever return there again. But then you look at what's happening inside their towns, the refugee camps, sorry, it's all being bulldozed and smashed up together. So really there's a real effort to move people on from places that the IDF, Israel's defense force, sees as a risky area. Also, on another issue, that of settlement development. Of course, Donald Trump, notably, one of the first things he did was lift the sanctions that Joe Biden put on Israeli settlements. This has led to the retabling of a large project to the east of Jerusalem, which is controversial because if it goes ahead, it could in effect split the West Bank in two and sink any possibility of Palestinian statehood. We've been speaking to Bedouin shepherds, and when you say Bedouin shepherds, think back into biblical times. These might have been the descendants of the shepherds who came to Bethlehem when Jesus Christ was born. Think of it that way. There's a move that could sort of push them off their land, which they've worked on for generations. Take a look at this report. This Bedouin village in the hills outside Jerusalem has already been under attack by Israeli settlers. Abu Imad shows us a little of the vandalism they left behind.
Here's the second hole. There I showed you the first, and now the second. Look how they bored into it. And they cut this tube to make this water tank completely useless.
Stuck in his winter base to protect his house and his family, Abu Imad is a Bedouin who's now scared to move, fearing his land will be eaten up by a Greater Jerusalem project dubbed E1.
Witnessing settler attacks on other Bedouins, seeing them set fire to houses and mosques, steal animals, it leaves you living in permanent fear and anxiety. Fear for your group, family, house, animals. 2 weeks ago, the head of the Mal Abdomen said they would call the project not E1, but Trump one.
The Bedouin with their sheep have been here for generations. You could trace it back to biblical times. Abu Imad says he's no intention of giving up his land to the settlers.
Our destiny to be displaced, we refuse to be forced out. Either we stay here or they bury us here. Then they can carry out their project. We don't have a choice. We have no place to go. E1 will only go ahead over our dead bodies.
Since Trump's election and the lifting of US sanctions, the E1 project is online again. Its impact could cut the West Bank in two and end hopes of a Palestinian state.
When they finish colonizing this area, it will separate the north and south of the West Bank. So we can never build a Palestinian state on the land occupied in 1967 if we carry out the E1 project.
Settler expansion could come over the hill in spite of international outcry. As the future for Bedouins like Abu Imad becomes blurred, the threat of the project bearing Trump's name is pulled into sharp focus.
That's France 24's Mark Owen reporting from the West Bank and Jerusalem. Mark, thank you so much.
All right, my take on this. Like I said, October 7th of 2023 was a biblical thing that was going on. Some of the things that we're seeing in the news seem to be of biblical characteristics. And if the Messianic age does happen in our lifetime, that means that most Jews, not all Jews, but most Jews are going to migrate to Israel. There are millions. I don't know how many millions. I don't know. I think my understanding is there's over 20 million Jews in the world, 25 million Jews in the world. 8 million or so are in Israel. Do the math. A lot of millions are going to be flooding all of a sudden to Israel. This is setting it in motion and creating a Manhattan in Gaza. And it's going to start the flow for the Messianic age. Now, I know you think I'm crazy on this, but the Palestinian state is done. It's done. We just saw the end of it. This is reconstruction in a post-war environment. Now, you're going to have skirmishes, you're going to have guerrilla warfare and all that, and that's where the U.S. military is going to get involved. Now the question is how do they stabilize the region when it comes to Iran? Now, I personally think that the Ayatollah should be destroyed, that he should be decapitated, literally. But, Trump in the news is saying that maybe there can be some negotiation with Iran. Who knows? A big player in this, the three big players of this reconstruction is going to be Israel, the United States, and Saudi Arabia. And like I said, and a lot of people thought I was wrong, but it's playing out in the news. I said there was going to be a greater Israel that's going to come out of this. All right. And that's going to go back to biblical borders. What the weird thing is that Gaza is technically not part of the biblical border with my understanding of what has been written in the Bible. All right. But areas of Lebanon, areas of Syria, parts of Jordan are part of that, but even Egypt, because of Sinai Peninsula and all that. So, but it's moving in that direction. All right. So Trump sees that there will need to be lots of housing that needs to be developed for the great migration to take place during the Messianic age. There's going to be millions of Jews that are going to be moving to Israel when the Messianic age. What will happen is there will be a quickening. There will be a fat. What will happen is there going to be a quickening, and then there will be a fast signs that are shown to the whole world, and it's going to have a harmonic, and that harmonic is going to reach the neshama of Jews. That harmonic will vibrate in the neshama of Jews. That will call them. Literally, they'll hear a voice that will call them to go to the land of Israel. There will be a mass migration. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen in our lifetime, but what Trump is setting in motion here is the first steps. They call it E1, T1, whatever. It doesn't matter what they call it. This has been written down that this was going to happen for thousands of years. It doesn't matter what the UN thinks. It doesn't matter what Westphalian logic thinks. It doesn't matter about the post-World War II reconstruction or the post-World War II world order. That all does not matter. All of it doesn't matter. What matters is what was written down thousands of years ago that's going to be taking place. No one's going to be able to stop it. No one. It doesn't matter what you think. No one's going to be able to stop this from happening. So one step of this is to create Gaza as like a Manhattan. So lots of Jews will migrate to Israel during the quickening. All right. There's going to be some that migrate early. Now, as this is happening, there's going to be a purge. I can't tell you exactly, all of the stats of the purge, but there's going to be a purge of the Palestinians out of the West Bank and out of Jerusalem to allow for the border to happen. Now, this is going to be done in phases. Maybe it's done in 3 phases, and it's not our generation that sees it, but the next generation that sees this in total fruition, and they get the quickening. But we are the stepping stone. Maybe we're the ones that are just roaming the desert waiting for, and we all have to die before another generation gets to see the promised land. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But the thing is that there is an acceleration and the beginning of a quickening that's taking place. Now, the harmonic to migrate to Israel has not taken place yet. Now, I don't know if that is when the Temple Mount is rebuilt and the harmonic happens, or if it's before the Temple Mount is rebuilt and the harmonic happens. Now, what is very interesting, and I don't understand why it hasn't happened yet. I do not understand why the red heifers have not been sacrificed, assuming that they haven't been. There's no indication that the red heifers have been sacrificed. The red heifers are a very key component to take the impurity of society, of the Jewish people, and to make it pure, to allow it to start moving forward with the temple. I do not understand why those red heifers have not been sacrificed. Now, they are still, from a halachic point of view, they're still in that zone where they can be sacrificed. I don't know if rabbis are afraid, you know, because if they do something spiritually that they think they're supposed to do, but they're not really supposed to do, or they do it wrong, they will die. There will be a spiritual death to them. It will be not just a spiritual death, there will be a physical death, but these holy people that are making these decisions, I think that they're afraid to do it because they know that if they do it wrong, they will die. So this is something that has not happened for a long time. All right. So, but it's a key component to the quickening. Why has the red heifers not been sacrificed? I don't have a good answer for that. They should have been, but I don't get it. Now, again, maybe they have, and no one knows about it. But the thing is there is this at the geopolitical level. You're seeing what I said on many shows about Jacob, Ishmael, and Esau, and that Jacob and Esau are going to battle each other, and that Esau is going to be split. There's going to be a positive Esau and a negative Esau. Negative Esau is going to die. He will die by the sword. And the intellectual part of Esau is going to align with Jacob and Ishmael. Ishmael is Saudi Arabia. Jacob is Israel and part of the United States. Esau is the rest of the nations and the Palestinians. Iran, Lebanon, Syria. But most of the world is Esau. And people will be at a fork in the road, making a decision. Do you want to be positive Esau, the intellectual part of Esau that aligns with Ishmael and Jacob, or the negative Esau, where it's the body, where it will be killed by Jacob, Esau, in the positive side, or by, let me rephrase that. The body is going to be destroyed and killed by Jacob, Ishmael, and the positive side of Esau. The intellect of Esau is going to align with Jacob and Ishmael. This has been written down for a long time. I'm not making this stuff up. Some people, they read the New Testament and this is Revelations. This stuff goes all the way into the Zohar, all right? All the way back to the Zohar. So that's the source document. Not Revelations is not the source document. The source document is the Zohar. And in there, it talks about this alignment of these souls, the soul roots, and how it's going to all battle out. Now, some people say it's Gog and Magog and blah, blah, blah. Those are fine details. I'm giving you the perspective of the soul roots and how this is all playing out. So how is the United States playing in this? Because the United States is mostly Jacob, partially Esau. And within that partial Esau, there is this battle that's going to be taking place between the negative, which is the body of Esau, and the positive of Esau. There's this battle that's taking place, and you see it in the news, where you have people that are anti-Semitic. Where do you think that anti-Semitism is coming from? Do you think it's coming from the soul root of Jacob, or do you think it's coming from the intellectual side of Esau? No, it's coming from the negative side of Esau, the body. What does body represent relative to the intellect? When you want to say head and body, the intellect is more, some of it's spiritual. You can look at it from a spiritual point of view, or IQ. The body is more animalistic, reactive, not spiritual. Cleanse itself to impurity. Impurity can attach to the body. This kind of goes into the whole reason why the red heifer has to be, the ashes have to be sprayed on the Jews to be able to purify the soul for them to go to the next level of the whole temple, the temple rebuilding. They can't build a temple if their body is impure. So what's happened? So going back to Esau and the split, the negative and positive Esau, they're going to be fighting each other, and you're going to see them fighting in the streets. You're going to see them fighting intellectually on the talk shows. You're going to see them fighting each other, saying we need to be pacifists, or we need to not align, with Jacob, or not align with Ishmael, or whatever. But this was foretold that Esau is going to have an internal battle. Esau's together right now. The head is on the body. But there's an internal battle that's happening on top of Esau as the full body battling Jacob. But that's starting to split. And this reconstruction is a manifestation in this plane to be able to see the beginnings of the split of Esau. Now, again, the sole root of the United States is Jacob and Esau. But within that Esau, there's a split. So what will get the blessing in the future is, for the United States, is Jacob and the positive side of Esau, the intellect. The body of Esau is going to be killed and will not be buried. The head will be buried with Jacob, the lineage. The body of Esau will not. It will be left to the waste. So Trump's plan here, on this plane that we understand, is, he's just going to build condos, and he's going to, people are going to buy them, and there's going to be lots of money to be made by the United States. What's happening is that they're setting it in motion for the stepping stones for the great migration that's going to be taking place, that has been said that it was going to take place since the beginning of diaspora. It's just that the Jews had to go through an over 2,000-year wandering because of the destruction of the Second Temple. But it's going to happen. Now, is it going to happen in my lifetime? I don't know. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen, after we die. I don't know. But these are setting in motion exactly what was predicted. The borders are going to increase. There's going to be economic prosperity in the region, and there's going to be the rebooting of this machine that we call a temple. And the rebooting of the machine, some way spiritually, needs to have certain components in it, and needs the blood of sacrifices to allow the machine to function. Now, most people in this world have no understanding of what that really means. We're not intellectually strong enough to understand it. We're not spiritually strong enough to understand it. We're too stupid and too animalistic to understand what that machine reboot and all the processes in it are. Now, some people would say, well, I'm a humanist, and, or I really care about animals, and we can't have that. You know what? It doesn't, all that, those constructs do not matter when it comes to this orchestration of the machine or the temple, the processes. I mean, it's pretty deep on how they cut the animal, and how they take the blood out, and how they sprinkle it, and why do they sprinkle it, and what corner, and what direction, and how many drops, and all. It's very detailed, extremely detailed. We are not smart enough to think that this is just old hocus pocus stuff. I don't think so. Too much has been going on in this world to keep on hinting. God's hinting. God's showing, you know what? Pay attention. Get your house in order. It's coming. It's coming. That may be generational to prepare for it, or it may be within years, or maybe days. Who knows? We really don't know. I do know this. The red heifer is a big component to it. Why it wasn't sacrificed, if it wasn't sacrificed, I don't know. I'm not holy enough to know. But I do know this. the things that Trump is doing, do you think that miracle of not being blown up with his head exploding on live TV, that miracle of preventing that from happening, do you think that miracles like that are only for the United States? Do you think that miracle that took place is only for the United States and only for him or only for his family or only for MAGA? Really? Wake up. Wake up. So there's something big coming. Now, that means that the Palestinians are getting kicked out over time. Now, there's going to be guerrilla warfare and all this. And I hope that we take out the theocratic regime of Iran. Trump did mention that he's in talks with maybe, you know, creating some sort of peaceful settlement with Iran. I'm sure Iran's getting scared. We literally just telegraphed that we're going to build an aircraft carrier on the land of Gaza. We're going to have a major economic foothold the size of New York City. It's a total wasteland right now. But with construction, you can see that this thing could get very big and have a lot of economic activity. So the Middle East could be a major hub for technology and a major hub for commerce. And we all thought it was just a wasteland and that all the promise is only going to be in the United States. Something big's coming. Something big's happening. Now, it doesn't mean that's going to be easy. It probably will not be easy. There's going to be Esau, the negative side of Esau, is going to be kicking and screaming. And it has been stated that he will die by the sword. And he will not be blessed and allowed to be buried with the lineage of Jacob. Only the head is. Only the head rolls into the cave, not the body. That's what's happening. You're seeing a very Kabbalistic Zohar predicted event that's taking place in the news right now. And I've been saying that this was coming since October 7th of 2023. And a lot of people say, no, it's not. No, it's not. Really? Really? You really believe that now? I mean, all the experts, all the military experts said that Israel was going to fail in Gaza. Israel's going to fail in Lebanon. Israel's going to fail with Syria. Then you wake up one day and there's like news that, you know, thousands of people were blown up by a pager. A lot of black swans are happening. And as long as the Israelis and the United States does not fear, as long as the soul roots of Jacob, the positive side of Esau, and Ishmael move forward, do not fear, do not become hubris, and do not care about the negative soul root of Esau that is embedded in the UN. As long as they do that, they will be victorious. But the moment that they're hubris, there will be failure. The moment that they fear, they will fail. And the moment that they cave into the negative soul root of Esau, and in this case, in this discussion, it's the proxy of the international community, they will fail. You can't give in to it. Do you think it's by accident that Trump keeps on saying, you know what, we're gonna defund US aid, we're gonna give buyouts to CIA, we're gonna give buyouts to FBI, we're gonna pull out of some of these humanitarian councils in the UN, we're defunding the World Health Organization? These are all attached to the soul root of Esau's negative side. So literally, he's Kabbalistically pulling the roots, pulling the energy source away from the negative soul root of Esau and aligning with the positive soul root of Esau, which is the intellect. Now, you may think I'm crazy on this, but I'm not wrong. Something big is happening. But you got these people that have Ivy League degrees that can do a PowerPoint or do a spreadsheet model and think that they're going to be able to model this out. You'll have these international policy gurus that have been in the business for decades thinking that they're going to be able to figure this out. You'll have military experts thinking, this is the way it's going to probably play out. And it didn't play out that way on the battlefield. Why? Because there's a blessing. It's really simple. Why? Because of all of that knowledge that these quote gurus have is nothing compared to the blessing of God. Nothing. You add up all the knowledge of mankind and just a drop of blessing from God. Just one little drop of blessing totally nukes any of human knowledge. Just one little drop of blessing. People are not paying attention. All right. Where else are you going to get such pontificating wisdom? All right, Saudi Arabia says no ties with Israel without Palestinian state. This was 8 hours ago from Al Jazeera. So here what you're going to see here is there is this pressure that's going to start building in flux between the positive and negative. Now the negative obviously is Esau, negative soul root. The positive is going to be Ishmael, Jacob, and the positive, as Esau breaks, the positive side of Esau's intellect, right? And it's going to flux and it's going to speed up, and more energy and more force is going to happen until there's a critical mass. And there's going to be infighting in the Middle East that's going to be increasing. The United States is going to get involved. That probably will lead to instability in Iran, that leads to the destruction and the killing of the Ayatollah. So let me play Al Jazeera's take on this.
File free in the app by 218 with a switch to TurboTax. Do it yourself. Extremely clear where it stands on all of this.
That's right. And in fact, last night, when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was taking questions at that joint press conference, he said that, quote, the normalization with Saudi would come soon and that it would shock people. But he's speaking outside of reality, because Riyadh has been quite clear that until their main condition is met, until there's an establishment of a Palestinian state, at least a pathway to it, then that is not going to happen. And you have Netanyahu, who for the last year has been going around and proudly saying that he himself has prevented the establishment of a Palestinian state and would use the rest of his political career to block that very move. So it's a little bit difficult to tell exactly what's going to happen, but you have two completely different views here. On one hand, Netanyahu is saying that it is going to happen, and that it's absolutely not going to happen until this one condition is met that Netanyahu says he's absolutely not going to do.
You're in Amman. What does all of this mean for Jordanians?
The Philistines battled Abraham. And the Jewish people have been constantly in war in that region throughout all of biblical history. All right? This is nothing different. This is nothing. There's always going to be battles. There's always going to be Jacob and Esau until we get to the end time. All right? Jacob and Esau have been fighting. These twins have been fighting each other for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Before Moses, all right? They've been battling each other. But it's been written down that Esau loses. Now, we're at a point where Esau isn't dead yet, all right? The soul root is still around. And so there's this flux that keeps on going. Esau has strength, Jacob loses strength. Jacob gains strength, Esau loses strength. It's like a seesaw. All right? They're inversely related. But the moment that Esau breaks, The moment that that positive negative part of the soul root breaks apart and aligns with Jacob, that seesaw stops. And Jacob starts gaining strength and gaining more strength and gaining more strength and gaining more strength. And so it's almost like a hockey stick kind of thing. See, right now it's just oscillating back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then all of a sudden something changes in the system. There's a phase transition. And all of a sudden there's exponential activity, exponential energy, exponential blessing, whatever word you want to use, that's aligned with the soul roots that are on the positive side. So we're going to have this back and forth, and this oscillation is taking place. But there is no doubt that the temple is being rebuilt. There's no doubt that Israel is going to have more land. Why? Because it's written in the Bible. This is independent of if you're Jewish, not Jewish, Palestinian, non-Palestinian, Muslim, non-Muslim, Christian or non-Christian. It doesn't matter. That's what was written. And that's what will be.
Well, Jordan's King Abdullah is set to go to the White House next week. He'll be the third world leader to visit U.S. President Donald Trump since he took office, and he's already expressed his disapproval for this plan of forcibly displacing Palestinians from Gaza and essentially amounting to ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian territory. So their meeting is sure to be fiery because it's not only Jordan, it's other countries in the region. It's the entirety of the Arab League who has voiced its disapproval for previous statements that have been made by the new U.S. president, saying that Jordan is not going to absorb millions of Palestinians because the Gaza Strip is Palestinian land and it's their home. So we're actually going to be monitoring that meeting, waiting to see exactly what comes out of it.
And finally, what's been the reaction so far from within Israel?
This has been something the Israeli government has wanted, especially from the far right. They have wanted the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. They previously used the term voluntary migration to encourage Palestinians to leave the Gaza Strip, even though they have said they absolutely would not. So this morning, reaction pouring in from Netanyahu's government, praising this move, saying that it's a great move for Israel, saying that they could rebuild illegal settlements, saying that it's a new dawn of history for the Middle East, but there is no sort of empathy whatsoever for the Palestinian people, because as Trump's Middle East envoy has said, he said that a better life for the Palestinians is not necessarily tied to the land. And if you know anything about the region, if you know anything about the Israel-Palestinian conflict, it is absolutely tied to the land. So these statements and remarks from Israeli officials are also not really based in reality, but of course they are voicing support for this latest comment by President Trump.
Okay, thank you so much for talking us through all of that. Hamda salute for us there in Amman.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
Let's play another one about this. It's big news. Trump's thinking big. Big, big, big. Okay, this is about Iran.
Wealthfront keeps your investments working, optimizing them automatically. If your barber does work like Wealthfront, haircuts would go on forever. You can't beat that with small talk.
The high five at Breck. 5 peaks all above 10,000 feet. 5 peaks in a town with a style all its own. Plan your winter adventure to Breck today.
Thank you very much. We had a busy day. We're dealing with lots of different people on lots of different things. We had some terrific people in today and trying to solve some of the problems that are going on in the country and outside of the country. We're doing very well with respect to other countries really behaving on taking the criminals that they sent into our country and we're getting them out. These are some of the worst people on earth, and they're getting out and they're being accepted back in their countries, as you heard, without exception. So a lot of people thought that was not going to happen, but it's happening very full force. Now we're getting some very, very dangerous people out of our country, which is very important. Will, perhaps we'll go through the first one.
Yes, sir. So earlier today, before the press came in, you signed a commission appointing Chris Wright to be your next Secretary of Energy. We have another commission prepared for your signature, sir. This is Doug Collins to be Secretary of the VA. Doug Collins of Georgia.
Two very good men.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, because I want to go to Al Jazeera because obviously their perspective is different than mine, and I want to be unbiased to this. I want to give equal time. I have a certain take on this. They have a different take, and I want to give their perspective on give time to their perspective. So let me go to Al Jazeera here.
To come in, 50% of the stocks were supposed to go to the north. Right now, less than 20% goes to the north. And until now,
and even that number, I mean, 600 trucks for a population of 2.3 million before the war, that's hardly enough, right?
Yes, I agree.
To sustain life, let alone rebuild.
I agree. And this is a good beginning. I think the people in Gaza are seeing that there's enough food, there's enough hygiene products, enough consumables in the market. But I think that the Israelis are particularly, like you said, not wanting the Palestinians to remain steadfast on their land in the north, especially. That's why we're supposed to have received 60,000 tents and 200,000 caravans. We haven't received any caravans, and we've received less than 1/3 of the tents that were supposed to allocate it for Gaza Strip. Not only that, but
who stops? Why? Basically, let me stop you there and ask why. Who stops more than 1/3 of tents, for example, coming in?
So the information I have on the ground is that the Israeli authorities in the north and the south, they pick and choose what gets through. And a lot of the high quality tents are refused, only low quality tents are let through. And until now, not a single modular house or caravan has been allowed into Gaza as of now for the residents, especially those in the north. So it's with the Israeli authorities. They're the ones that decide what gets in and what doesn't.
So the implication being that this keeps the idea of moving, particularly back to the north, a very unstable situation rather than unviable option.
Here's the problem. Don't they realize they have a failed state? They put their eggs in the basket of Hamas. They had UNRWA run their country into the ground with corruption. They aligned themselves with Iran. They lost. Do you think that Mexico shoots missiles to, let's say, Dallas, Texas, all right, and they invade the border and they take women and children and then hold them hostage in Mexico City? Do you think the Texans are going to let that happen? Do you think Mexico City would be leveled by Texas? Yes. Do you think that Mexico City would stay part of Mexico? No. That's exactly what's happening right here. They lost. There's a reconstruction. If they can reconstruct and build their community to prosperous, great. If they can't, then you know what? It's time to move on. Because obviously it hasn't been working for the last few thousand years.
Need fixing.
Yes.
Power stations, right? No sign of that being anywhere close to happening.
We're hoping that as we're closing in on the end of phase 1 and entering the phase 2 agreement, hopefully, there will be more focus on rebuilding Gaza, rebuilding its infrastructure. I think the world has seen, alhamdulillah, in Gaza City, they were able to put out.
Gaza's going to get rebuilt. The question is who's going to be living there. Gaza for sure is getting rebuilt.
But they need the support of the outside world. They need the support of the different charity organizations. They would like to see a lot more coordination when it comes to how the work is done, by who, when and where. We don't want to see a lot of duplicate efforts, people doing the same thing more than once. And despite the great work that Qatar, Egypt, and Jordan are doing, I think the Palestinians are looking for more international countries to come and help in different sectors, whether it be education, healthcare, residents.
Did you ever ask the question,
Thank you.
why is the Jordanians don't want the Palestinians? You have to go back in a little bit of, recent history to know that. Do you know why the Saudis don't really want the Palestinians or the Egyptians? If they're such great people, if they're so prosperous, if they're such hardworking, if they're such, individuals of paragon virtue, why don't they take these people in? Because they don't want to import the PLO. It's a big part of their society is about terrorism. Their soul root, this is what I keep on saying about the negative side of Esau. It's about the body. There's very little intellect. It's animalistic. It's warring. And that part of Esau has to die. Now, that negative side of Esau is also in other countries. It's not just the Palestinians. But there's going to be a great killing that's going to be taking place. All right, I'm going to go back to Fox News here with Trump.
Next up, in light of numerous actions taken by a number of bodies of the United Nations, which exhibit a deep anti-American bias, we have an executive order prepared for your attention that would withdraw the United States from the UN Human Rights Council, would withdraw the United States from the UNRWA, which is a refugee organization, and would also review American involvement in UNESCO, which has also exhibited anti-American bias. More generally, the executive order calls for a review of American involvement and funding in the UN in light of the wild disparities in levels of funding among different countries that, as you've expressed previously, is deeply unfair to the United States.
So I've always felt that the UN has tremendous potential. It's not living up to that potential right now. It really isn't, hasn't for a long time. It has, there are great hopes for it.
Struggling to keep customers happy?
Try Zoho Desk.
Reach customers at the right time on the.
There are great hopes for it, but it's not being well run, to be honest, and they're not doing.
Breaking news, oil reserves for inventories rose 8.66 million barrels.
Good job. A lot of these conflicts that we're working on should be settled, or at least we should have some help in settling them. We never seem to get help. That should be the primary purpose of the UN, the United Nations. And again, it's got great potential, and based on the potential, we'll continue to go along with it. But we got to get their act together. What would they need to do to get their act together? Well, they got to be fair to countries that deserve fairness. They have some countries, as you know, that are outliers, that are very bad, and they're being almost preferred as countries to those that do their job and are doing a good job. And they have to really, they're going to end up losing a lot of countries. They're going to end up losing their credibility like other organizations, and then they're going to be nothing. The potential of the United Nations, and not everybody agrees with me on this, the potential of the United Nations is fantastic if properly run. So we'll see what happens.
How much money are you going to take away from that?
Well, we're taking away a little bit, but we're not looking to take away money. But this is so important that we're really, as you know, the United Nations is largely funded by us. But, and it shouldn't be, it should be funded by everybody, but we're disproportionate, as we always seem to be. But it's something that if it ever lived up to the potential, in 10 minutes it would make up the difference. That's the kind of power it could have. Right now, it doesn't have that power.
Next, sir, this is a national security presidential memorandum that.
Now, it's important to understand from the perspective that I have about this whole soul root thing. With the UN, there's a lot of corruption, like I said, it's tied to negative aspect of Esau. But when the negative aspect of Esau is killed off, and it's only the positive side of Esau aligned with Jacob and Ishmael, then what's going to happen is there's the 70 nations that provide peace offerings to the temple during the pilgrimage. Now, there's going to be more than 70 nations based on the term that we use in modern vernacular. But biblically, the 70 nations are tied to Noah and tied to some gematria with Abraham and all this stuff. So I'd have to look up all the details about it. But the 70 nations are regions. So what we say is a nation isn't a complete mapping to what is the nations in the Bible. All right. So there's going to be more countries. There's going to be 100 and some countries, right? But 70 nations, because each nation, which could be a series of countries or pieces of countries, their soul root comes down. The energy, the nations have soul roots too, not just people. So the energy that's going to the nation and the individual components of the nation, which we will use the term countries, will be giving peace offerings during the pilgrimage annually to the temple to get the blessing that comes down from that peace offering. All right. The mechanism of the 70 nations is going to be the UN. Now, there's going to be more than 70 countries, but there's not more than 70 nations. There's 70 nations plus Israel. That's how this works. And it's tied to something, it's tied to the lineage of Noah and tied to some sort of number, gematria number with Abraham. But I have to look up what the connection is. But the point I'm making is that this was written down a long time ago, that there's going to be a temple. There's going to be that rebooting. There's going to be 70 nations that are providing peace offerings, and that these nations are tied to the soul roots of the lineage going all the way back to Noah. Now, what a nation is in the Bible is a larger umbrella of what we call countries. There's going to be multiple countries that get plugged into this nation, different soul roots, 70 nation soul roots. So this orchestration of the peace offering and the management outside of Israel, in terms of international policy, will be through a governing agency. That governing agency is going to be the UN, or a spin-off of the UN. Maybe you have to pull out the bad. Maybe you have to destroy the UN completely and then rebuild it. I don't know. But there is some sort of agency or some sort of governing body of the 70 nations that work together to allow for peace, and that the peaceful blessing that comes in is through the peace offerings that are offered at the temple at the proper time.
To impose maximum pressure on the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Many of these provisions are similar to actions that your administration took during your first administration. The basic idea here is to have every department and agency, or many departments and agencies in your government attempt to sanction and control Iranian activities, particularly relating to the Iranian nuclear program and the Iranian export of terrorism through support of various proxy groups abroad. And the intent here is to give you all of the possible tools I'd say, engage with the Iranian government to ensure that going forward, they're less of a malign actor on the world stage.
So this is one that I'm torn about. Everybody wants me to sign it. I'll do that. It's very tough on Iran. It's what we had before. We would have never had the problem. You would have never had October 7th. We would have never had the problem had the election gone a different way, which it should have. But this one, I think, more than made up for it. I think we're doing things that it shows that more than made up for it, much more historic. The Iran situation, hopefully, I'm going to sign it, but hopefully we're not going to have to use it very much. We will see whether or not we can arrange or work out a deal with Iran and everybody can live together. Maybe that's possible and maybe it's not possible. So I'm signing this and I'm unhappy to do it, but I really have not so much choice because we have to be strong and firm, and I hope that it's not going to have to be used in any great measure at all. It'd be great if we could have a Middle East and maybe a world at total peace. Right now, you don't have that. When I left, you had peace all over the world, and now you have the world is blowing up. As you know, BB is coming in to see me later. Others are coming in to see me. We'll see what we can do. But I'm signing this, and hopefully it will be a document which won't be very important, will hardly have to be used.
So what kind of deal?
This is interesting because this is the news asking him questions before he had his conference, his news press conference with Netanyahu later in the day, yesterday.
Well,
This is all before
we're
this.
going to see. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. With me, it's very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. We don't want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Conversations with your counterpart in Iran?
I would.
Do you want to block the sale of Iranian oil to other nations?
Well, we have the right to do that, and that's what I did before, and they had no money. They wouldn't have had the money for Hamas or Hezbollah and anybody else. I just, it could have been solved. This thing, it's just, if things went the way they should have, this would have been over long ago.
Think about this for a second. Through the Biden and the Obama administration, with their deal, their nuclear deal with Iran, gave them the ability to have money to be able to fund Hezbollah and Hamas. That led to the catalyst for October 7th, that led to the absolute destruction of the Gaza Strip. Obama and Biden are complicit, but not because because Biden gave weapons to Israel. They're complicit because they allowed funding to Iran through the nuclear deal. And this is what I mean by Esau. It's negative and positive are together, but then eventually the head leaves and aligns and the body's left. The animalistic part of the soul is left. The animalistic part of being on this plane of the world, or this plane of existence. Obama and Biden literally set in motion, was the catalyst, was the funding mechanism. When you look at the root cause of this event, they were the catalyst for the destruction of Gaza Strip. Now, Israelis blew it up, but Israel wouldn't have blown it up. Now, Israel and Netanyahu probably wanted to blow it up, right? But the thing is that if it wasn't for the failed foreign policy of the Bidens and Obama, if it wasn't for their failure of foreign policy with Iran, October 7th wouldn't have happened. And therefore, people would still be living in their homes in Gaza. So who's really at fault here? Don't be surprised that when you start kicking a hornet's nest, that hornets come out. Don't be surprised that you get stung. Don't be surprised that if you do something that you lose on the battlefield and lose everything. You can't just go redo, because that's not how life is. You can't just, raise your hand, and go redo. Let's start all over again. Let's try this, one more time. There is no such thing as redo in life.
Not over.
How close do you think Iran is to developing a nuclear weapon?
I think they're close. I think they're close. They're too close. But again, you could go back 40 years, I would have said they would have had it during this intervening period. But they're pretty close, Peter.
And why is Iran haven't decided if it's Iran and their proxies who threaten to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to a leader, or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran. So I'm signing this, and it's a very powerful document, but hopefully we're not going to have to use it.
Mr. President, if the Prime Minister today were to ask your help in striking at Iran's nuclear facilities to prevent the kind of progress towards a nuclear weapon, would you give him the green light? Would you either to do it himself or for the U.S. to participate with him?
I don't know that that's what he's going to be asking for. I have no idea that it is. You're telling me. We're going to have a pretty long meeting. We're going to be discussing a lot of things, not only that, but a lot of things. And I'll let you know if the time comes to let you know, but right now that's not something that I can discuss.
Mr. President, when you just said if they do it, they give it eventually. Just to be clear, you're talking about if Iran made an attempt on your life.
Yeah. That would be called total obliteration. And I can't imagine they do that. It should.
I think he's being coy with his words. He means nuclear detonation. That's what he means, nuclear detonation. The thing is that this region is out of control. If you look at the soul root of Esau, Esau's willing to destroy everything to prevent Jacob from having. That's the kind of person that Esau is in the Bible. All right. And these soul roots are similar. You got to kill Esau's negative soul root. It has to happen. Peace on this earth and blessing from above doesn't happen without doing that. Esau has to die.
But he didn't say it because he had no clue, as you know, as everybody knows.
What is your vision actually for a relationship
Do you have
with
anything
Iran?
else?
No, that's all we have.
My vision for what?
What relationship with Iran?
I'd love to have a good relationship with everybody. They can't have a nuclear weapon. That was the only thing that was very important. They can't have a nuclear weapon. Beyond that, it would be very tough if they insist on doing that. They have some of their leadership, I can tell you right now, and maybe you know it, maybe you don't, but there are many people at the top ranks of Iran that do not want to have a nuclear weapon just for that very reason.
He's bringing up a good point, because guess what? Iran as a country could be a very prosperous and democratic country, self-governing country. Unfortunately, it's being held down by a theocratic regime, aka the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah needs to die. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The website is the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's a tongue twister sometimes. Please go to my store and get the vitamin C and magnesium. This will boost up your immune system and also help with your skin health. And you don't want to get scurvy, do you? So go to my store and get vitamin C. This also has magnesium, boost up that immune system. If you're not feeling too well during the cold season, take a double dose, drink it with filtered water. Also, I have magnesium and zinc. This will boost up your immune system. Take it every day. If you're not feeling so well because of the cold season, you need a double dose. The way you do that is you take one in the morning, you take another one in the evening. Make sure you drink it with filtered water. So get the magnesium and zinc and get the vitamin C and magnesium. Great way to boost up your immune system. Very important to take every day. All right. I want to go to Bloomberg right now, see what's going on in the markets here.
Things that I just listed a moment ago, aid to the wildfires, aid to farmers as we prepare for the trade wars, continued spending on the tax side and 1% increases in 2025 spending, $300 billion in military spending. Whatever DOGE is able to find, Congress has already spent. So I'm not seeing a lot in terms of functional deficit reduction or spending cuts that will offset what Congress will do.
Okay, Henrietta, thank you so much for that great synopsis there. A lot of moving parts down there in Washington, in Congress with all those bills that Henrietta was laying out for us. Henrietta Tres, Managing Partner and Director of Economic Policy for Beta Partners, kind of laying it all out for us. So again, some big numbers that Congress is looking at, and we're going to have to.
Just to remind the audience, the ones that are watching live stream on YouTube, you can also watch on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, the live stream. It's under broadcast live. I have a simulcast with X Spaces. Please join X Spaces if you'd like to ask a question or just to listen in. Some people just listen to the show during their work, or they're at the edge of a cliff and they don't know if they want to jump off and they want to listen to my show. I don't know what it is, but please join the conversation, type questions or your opinions in the chat. We're going through tumultuous times, but like I said before, this is playing out very similar to what I said in 2023. Now, the rub of this whole thing is I am shocked that the red heifers have not been sacrificed yet, assuming that they haven't been. Okay, let's go to live now, like the House Speaker speaking about the Trump agenda.
This situation that President Trump is in Gaza, is that an America First policy to send American soldiers into one of the most volatile regions in the world, and then suggest that the U.S. take control of the region that it has no place?
Look, there'll be more details forthcoming on that, of course. The initial announcement yesterday, I think, was greeted by surprise by many, but cheered by, I think, people all around the world. Why? Because that area is so dangerous, and he's taking bold, decisive action to try to ensure the peace of that region. It's a bold move, certainly.
Building the size of New York City in that region and stabilizing it is a huge economic engine in the Middle East. It's a big, bold move. Huge move. Huge. This is what happens when you have a leader actually in the presidency instead of a brain dead person like Biden.
First international leader to meet with the president in the White House is more than symbolism, but it is a symbol, and it shows the world that we're not going to equivocate. The previous administration did that. They tried to appease Iran and by extension its proxies, terrorists, and they frankly encumbered Israel in so many times. You're seeing a reversal of that now. That is a very important development. I think our allies around the world appreciate that. I know, because I talked to lots of leaders around the world, and they've been very nervous about the instability there. I think this could be a bold step in that regard. So let's withhold judgment on all of it. You'll see more developments as they come. Back up. So here's the thing on the Federal Department of Ed. It's been a discussion point and a priority for our party for a long time. See, we believe in the core principle that education is best handled by the people closest to the kids. What does that mean? It means local school districts, local school boards. It means at the state level rather than the federal level. We think you empower parents when you do that. You give them more choice in that. So that's why we're advocates for school choice. That's why we're advocates for charter schools and innovative ideas. And I think you can return American education to a place of prominence and success if you allow those things to happen. The teachers' unions will viciously fight, of course, any idea of disbanding the federal Department of Education. But I think the principle is one that is, the time has come. We've all seen the ratings. I mean, the U.S. is falling far behind other countries because the system is not working. So when President Trump ran for president, and when we ran to hold the majority here, we assured the people that we would make big, bold decisions to change things. And I think that is an idea whose time has come. And again, you know, like everything else, you got to wait for more details to be laid out. But you're going to see a lot of support among House and I think Senate Republicans for the general idea of pushing the decisions back down to the local level. I think that's something that would serve us all well.
I just want you to be clear, though. I know you said what the president said yesterday was bold and decisive, but yes or no, do you believe the U.S. should take control of Gaza? And is that a position you're going to reaffirm that the prime minister is here?
Well, I look forward to meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. There's a lot to discuss. I've been a very close ally of his, and to be frank, for the last 4 years, I think I was probably the highest ranked member of the federal government who was unequivocally supporting Israel and the prime minister. So we'll have that discussion. I mean, he obviously has much more expertise on the issue than I do. But as I said earlier, we await further details on what exactly that looks like. This is a bold, decisive move, and I think you have to do something to eradicate the threat to Israel. Here's the problem. If you leave Gaza in its current form, there's always a risk of another October 7. There's always a risk of proxies of Iran, all these terrorist organizations whose openly stated goal is to eliminate Israel as a state. So it just makes sense to make the neighborhood there safer. I think that's logical. I think it follows common sense. I think people understand the necessity of it. And we're going to stand with Israel as they work towards this goal. And we'll stand with the president on his initiative. Chad, last one.
Years now, elected bureaucrats in charge of things downtown. We have ceding Article 1 powers to the executive branch. Everything on us. Is there not inconsistency about calling for the elimination of the Department of Education? And then we heard from colleagues this morning, we don't want to be playing sports with men. Aren't you ceding back that power that is pertains to education if you eliminate the Department of Education?
No, look, I got to challenge the premise of the question, Chad. You know me, I'm a fierce advocate and defender of Article 1. I mean, we are the legislative branch. There's a reason the founding fathers put the Congress, the legislative branch, as the first article in the Constitution, and we're going to vigorously defend that. But what's happening right now, I think there's a gross overreaction in the media to what is happening. The executive branch of government in our system has the right to evaluate how executive branch agencies are operating and to ensure that not only the intent of Congress in funding mechanisms, but also the stewardship of precious American taxpayer dollars is being handled well. That's what they're doing by putting a pause on some of these agencies and by evaluating them, by doing these internal audits. That is a long overdue, much welcome development. That's what the American people demand and deserve. And that's what's happening. So we don't see this as a threat to Article 1 at all. We see this as an active, engaged, committed executive branch authority doing what the executive branch should do. They have broad discretion in all the funding, as you all know, because you follow this. When Congress funds an agency, they give broad discretion to the executive branch on how it's administered. They're using that authority right now in a way it hasn't been used in a long time. So it looks radical. It's not. I call it stewardship. I think they're doing right by the American taxpayer, and we support that principle. When it comes to the point of codification and legislation and all the rest, we'll be evaluating all those things. But right now, I think they're acting within the scope of their authority. There's be legal challenges. The courts will have some things to say about this. But so far as I'm concerned, Chad, this is not a usurpation of authority in any way. It's not a power grab. I think they're doing what we've all expected and hoped and asked that they would do. For years, members of the legislative branch in Congress, Senate and House have asked for details. They've asked for the expenses of USAID. I mean, look, this is what was uncovered. 3 just quick examples. I mean, you tell me if this is unreasonable. Some of the stuff that the money was being spent on that we didn't even know. Crazy examples that came out. Look, $100 million on initiatives like expanding atheism in Nepal. That's what American taxpayers should be paying for? No way. Transgender.
$100 million for atheism?
In Colombia, drag shows in Ecuador. No way. The American people want us to, we have a $36 trillion federal debt. It is a serious threat to the future.
Hundreds of millions of dollars are being wasted on ultra liberal programs, on top of billions of dollars being sent for the war effort in Ukraine that I'm against. We are wasting too much money. I thank God there is a Trump. We will never see a president in our lifetime anywhere close to a Trump, nor are we going to see an individual like individuals like his cabinet and individuals that are outside his cabinet that are advisors helping him. This is a once in a generation, once in a lifetime, maybe once in every 250 years that you see. We got to move forward, support the Trump's agenda, and make the world a lasting, peaceful place and prosperous. But don't make the mistake that many generations have made before in the United States. Being a pacifist usually ends up hurting you, not helping you. That doesn't mean you should be a warmonger, because I'm against, never-ending wars in the Middle East or never-ending wars in the Eastern Front of Europe. But I do believe that certain wars need to be won if it's warranted to fight, and not be some sort of annuity for the military-industrial complex. So there's a nuance there. But beware, the people that are very passive, that they're pacifists, and they think America first means doing nothing in the Middle East. Guess what? That is not where the soul root of the United States generates its energy from. And those individuals align themselves on a metaphysical level and a Kabbalistic level with the negative soul root of Esau. Mark my words on this. I am not wrong.
Security of our nation, we got to spend money better. And if this executive branch and this White House is going to take the initiative to dig in and find those details and expose them, we applaud it. We're all on board. Thanks so much.
That was just moments ago, House Speaker Mike Johnson, as we were hearing from members of the House GOP speaking on President Donald Trump's agenda, as well as other topics.
All right, now the UK is upset about the Gaza plan. Lovely.
What about US aid cuts? We look at the impact on public health systems, especially support for.
What I want to do is I want to go back to boom here.
Might not be coming as fast and furious as we thought. Morgan Stanley now saying just one cut this year instead of two. And then Barry Ritholtz, founder of Ritholtz Wealth Management, will talk about things. I think that's a good tease for him, right? He'll just say things. He'll just whatever is on his mind.
Stocks,
I like that about him. Yeah. But let's get all caught up here. Here's a business flash with John Tucker.
All right, the major stock averages off the lows of the session, they have now turned mixed. In fact, S&P 500, you have 305 stocks higher, 195 are lower right now, and also high volume day for the S&P 500. Google parent Alphabet proving the biggest drag in the S&P 500 in terms of index points after those cloud growth problems, showing some slowing there. Amanda Gotti of PNC Bank urging investors, look at company results overall during this earnings season.
I do think investors should be focused on earnings season. I mean, we're really in the thick of it here, and it's always where the rubber meets the road in terms of the underlying fundamentals. I think what we've seen so far, forget about what happened just last night, but in general, earnings season has been coming in really solid.
Right now, the S&P 500 13 points lower, down 0.2%. The Dow up about 4.5 points, and the NASDAQ 100 75 points lower. That is down right now about 0.4%. Movement in fixed income of the bond space, the treasuries anyway. 10-year yield right now 9 basis points lower, 4.42. That should give a lift possibly to tech stocks. Maybe 2-year yield right now, which is more policy reactive after we got some of that data this morning. That is down 5 basis points. Right now at 4.16. And as we look at crude oil, NYMEX crude, U.S. stuff down 1.6%, 71.54 a barrel.
A war on the bloated workforce. Elon Musk and Uncle Sam? No, it's Amazon. Andy Jassy's campaign to flatten Amazon's middle management ranks is rippling through the company. Employees in multiple departments describe an uncertain workplace where old career paths are drying up for managers. And we check the markets for you all day long, right here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm John Tucker, and that is your Bloomberg Business.
Just imagine when AI starts to come in, you're going to have, it's going to be cutting out managers, and workers. It's going to be a decoupling of labor and capital, which probably is going to be negative for the economy, but we'll see.
Carolyn, he's a Bloomberg meteorologist who joins us on the phone. Rob, talk to us about this weather coming east.
Well, Paul, it's a combination of warm temperatures coming up out of the southern United States with some moisture and some energy dropping down out of the Dakotas where it's still cold. It's going to set off a little bit of freezing rain and rain this evening around the district and Baltimore by about 8, 9 o'clock. They'll have some icing through the late evening hours, and then it's plain rain there by the time it ends tomorrow morning. The problems are going to be for the New York City commute tomorrow morning with a little bit of light snow changing over to some light rain. New York City under a winter weather advisory starting at 4 a.m. I do think the commute's impacted. Now, Boston, it's a different story. They should get the morning commute in before the snow starts around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. It's the ride home that's a problem in Boston. We'll be looking at rain along the coast of Boston tomorrow afternoon, but just inland, they could see 2 to 4 inches of snow along with some sleet and freezing rain. The worst of this system, guys, is going to be just to the north and west of I-95 from late tonight into tomorrow afternoon.
All right, Rob, thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure spring is just a moment away. Rob Carolyn, Bloomberg meteorologist, joining us.
Next week, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely did not wear my snow boots. Like, I'm not ready for this again. Okay, let's get more on the markets here and dive deeper into some of the equity stories. Norma Linda, Bloomberg Equities reporter, is joining us. All right, Nora, you're looking at Alphabet, hashtag Google.
All right, before we go to that, I want to just plug a couple products here. Please go to my store, get the resveratrol. This is something I've been taking for decades. Resveratrol is very important for improving your mitochondrial health, getting rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis. And resveratrol is an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals. It's synergistic with C60, NAD+, ubiquinol. So please take the resveratrol every day. The benefit of resveratrol is when you stack it with something like C60 and NAD+. Myotrol, very important to build muscle and to maintain muscle and improve your mitochondrial health. You need lots of ATP to maintain muscle. You ever wonder why older people have a problem with muscle? Well, their energy levels go down, their movement goes down, and they start to atrophy. So it's really important to maintain muscle and increase muscle mass, especially if you're 40 plus years of age. So take Myotrol every day. If you're an athlete, either younger or older, you should be taking Myotrol to improve your strength gains. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Myotrol, use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, you get $5 off, stack Myotrol with Gladiator barley, and you get even more benefit in terms of strength. And turmeric. Turmeric is an antioxidant, soaks up free radicals, and it brings down pro-inflammatory cytokines. That's important. Bring down inflammation and improve your immune system. Please go to my store and get the turmeric. All right.
Didn't expect it to be, right? But it's just still the disappointment, I guess.
For sure, and they were down 18% last year. So I think investors are really looking for returns here.
What I've done well is Broadcom, and that's based off of
Yes.
Google's earnings. So that was a nice read-through from there as well. All right, Nora, thanks a lot, Norma Linda, joining us, Bloomberg Equities reporter. All right, one other company we're watching is Novo Nordisk. That company is seeing an Ozempic boom, prompting another sales surge. Madison Buller is Bloomberg healthcare reporter, and she joins us now. Walk us through the numbers that we heard today.
Yeah, so revenue will likely grow by 16 to 24%, Novo said this morning our time, which just goes to show that the Ozempic boom and the Ozempic hype around these drugs, which Ozempic obviously is a diabetes drug, Wegovy is the version for weight loss, but that boom is not stopping or slowing down anytime soon.
So I kind of thought this would be, you get it for a few months and then you stop, maybe you go back, get it, but it just seems like we haven't seen the top of the demand curve yet, have we?
No, we haven't. And that is happening to some degree. I mean, we know that the drop-off rates actually for these drugs are pretty high. I mean, like 60% of people don't take them really long-term, more than a year. But at the same time, the demand is not letting up. So some people go back to taking the drugs. There are new prescriptions starting. So that really hasn't slowed down the demand for these drugs yet. But that is something that drug makers are trying to figure out how to keep people on these drugs longer, and whether that's access, improving affordability, making sure that they're not getting cut off by insurance companies, side effects, just figuring out maintenance dosing better. So those are also things that are top of mind still.
So what we previously knew about the weight loss drugs is that they were constrained by supply, and that was kind of hurting their growth trajectory. Where are we now with that?
Yeah, so for Novo, there are going to still be supply issues, or they're anticipating some this year. They did say that they think that they'll get off the FDA shortage list this year, which would be a big deal for them, particularly because that would hypothetically stop compounding and the rise of these knockoff weight loss drugs that are allowed when a drug is in shortage. For Novo's rival, Eli Lilly, the supply issue has been a lot better. They sort of solved that last year, and so that's something that has been important for Novo because they are still constrained by these supply issues, while Lilly is not. So that's something that's going to continue to be a big theme this year, but both companies have invested billions of dollars to build out production capacity. So some of that will probably start to come online this year.
Where is the industry coming up with an oral?
You don't need Ozempic. If you follow what I've been telling you, you can lose weight, gain energy, gain muscle, control diabetes. Now we're going to go over exactly how, but one way is to gain muscle and work out, taking the Myotrol and building up the muscle. Now, people need to realize when you start losing weight, your fat cells stay in your body for about 5 to 7 years. The triglycerides that are in there that make the fat cell, you start to lose those triglycerides and you're burning them as energy, and the cell starts to shrink. But your adipose tissue, that stays there for 5 to 7 years unless you have liposuction. So it's important to maintain the lower body weight for 5 to 7 years, and that signals the body to get rid of those cells. The reason why the body doesn't want to get rid of adipose tissue once it's created, and keep those fat cells there, is that the body thinks that it might go into famine because of a lack of food. So it's storing during the hunting and gathering part of our evolution. So people need to realize that you can't just lose weight. No, they lost 50 pounds and they can rest on their laurels. That's the reason why the yo-yo diet, and they go up in weight again, because the adipose tissue is still there. The fat cells are still there. It's just that they're depleted of triglycerides. So it's important. It's about lifestyle change. It means stop eating bad food. Make sure you filter your water. Eat healthy. Eat in moderation. Reduce your calorie intake to less than 2,000 calories a day. Less than 2,000 calories a day for most people. And work out. And taking supplements that will help to really supercharge your metabolism, improve your gut biome. So it's a holistic approach, but you have to be vigilant. And you have to be doing this over a 5 to 7 year period to permanently have weight loss. You're not going to have permanent weight loss with the yo-yo of Ozempic and not change your diet, not change your... Ozempic was really designed for people that were morbidly obese, and get them on the path of changing lifestyle. Not someone that's a little bit overweight. But there's going to be a lot of people thinking they can just pop a pill and they're going to lose weight and blah, blah, blah. Well, you didn't lose the fat cells. It takes 5 to 7 years for that. And you got to change your lifestyle. Take my advice or don't take my advice. I'm not wrong.
apps, and we talked about, you know, how they have 7 apps with over 2 billion users. Look at what Meta is doing. They're rolling out AI across all their apps, you know, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. Google is doing the same. And so if they're rolling out AI, they need more capacity for their own internal consumption. And so I think the CapEx increase and the rollout of AI on their own family of apps probably was the reason why the cloud underperformed. And there could be one or two customers who didn't ramp up as expected because they were supply constrained. So all this kind of tied together. I don't think we need to make a big deal out of the fact that, you know, cloud growth was 30% and not 32%, which was consensus, because everyone knows we are in a supply constrained environment when it comes to these GPUs.
Talk to me about Gemini. What is Gemini? Is it working? What are the metrics? Talk to us about Gemini.
Yeah, I mean, look at
Gemini. Is there AI?
Is there a large language model equivalent to ChatGPT, which Microsoft has, or Meta Llama model that they have? And so they're very similar to Meta in the sense they have their in-house model. In fact, they have their own chips as well, the equivalent of NVIDIA GPUs. So this is like the one company that's vertically integrated throughout. I mean, I think to me, they are the equivalent of Apple on the data center side, you know, end-to-end vertical integration. And now they are rolling out their own large language model on their family of apps. So what they told us about search is search engagement has gone up because they are rolling out AI. The AI overviews are keeping more people on the search page. So instead of somebody clicking on a blue link and going away, now there's
AI for most people, the home users. AI for most people is an advanced search engine.
Showing you along with it, and they're monetizing that.
Well, I really question, have you seen the links that come with that? Like, I'm like, what is this link? It's very strange. Like, the info might be fine, but the link is weird. I'm just saying. And other stocks that you cover, Uber is down a whopping 7%. What happened here?
Well, I think with Uber, the narrative is Waymo is rolling out more cities. So right now, Waymo is in 5 cities. In 2 cities, they have partnerships with Uber, but in other cities, they are going on their own. And with Tesla planning to roll out their robo-taxis middle of this year, and Musk's involvement in the government, everyone feels they're going to get their regulatory approvals quickly. And that will be a big overhang. I don't think there was anything wrong with the Uber quarter, but it's just when you have that narrative that there will be autonomous vehicles, where we have a proof point. Waymo is doing very well in the 5 cities it's operating in. I mean, the number of rides are, you know, a fraction of what Uber is doing in a quarter, but it's still, people like that experience.
Who's gonna, for Waymo and all these drivers, who's gonna make the vehicles?
So in the case of
so we've already got a gajillion regular vehicles on the road.
Yeah.
Ubers can't all that.
So these are specialized vehicles with, you know, LiDAR and radar and all the sensors, the suite of sensors, and they cost a lot. They cost, every Waymo vehicle is over $100,000. So compared to your normal vehicle, they obviously have a premium price point, and they need to be maintained, etc.
So if I'm a bull on Uber, I say, yeah, the driverless cars are out there, but they're just a fraction. They're not that much of a competitor.
Absolutely, that's perfectly fine narrative, and that's what Uber highlighted, that the safety aspects will come into play, even though Waymo is in 5 cities. It's not as if they'll expand into 50 cities overnight because of all the safety aspects that they would want to do.
All right, Mandeep.
Yep.
Really good stuff. Thank you so much. I know he's so busy. He's
just put his desk here.
Look, he's walking around with an IFB.
I know.
Like that's a TV thing that you need. Like
Yeah.
he's that kind of guy right now. All right, coming up, we're going to talk more on the economic data landscape. Mike McKee, Bloomberg International Economics and Policy Correspondent, will be here on the ADP
All right,
report.
let me plug a couple more products here. Please get the collagen peptides. This is a great way to improve your joints, your muscles, your bones, your skin, your hair, your nails. It's a dual purpose product. It's targeting many different areas of your body. It has a great amino acid profile. You can take a look at it more closely on my website, taking a look at the label. It's a powder. It's about 1 month's worth. You get a big scooper. You take it every day. For me, I just had my lunch. with the hummus. And, you know, you just mix it in soft foods like hummus or yogurt. Some people put it in a smoothie. Some people just mix it with milk or just filtered water. It's up to you. But taking this every day and doing some resistance training is really important for your overall health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, to get this very high quality collagen. And in addition, this is also a skincare. So you can get my skincare box. It's the anti-aging skincare box, beginners or advanced. And in the beginners, you get the collagen, the vitamin C, and the structural nanosilver gel. With the advanced box, you get the C60 and the resveratrol, with on top of the other 3 items that are in the beginner's box. So it's a great way to improve your skin. How does it work? Well, collagen cross-links with vitamin C. When you drink filtered water, that water is going to cross-link with that vitamin C and the collagen to improve your dermal layer. To improve the topical part of your skin, taking the structural nanosilver gel. And to improve the basal layer, the C60 and the resveratrol helps. Soaking up those free radicals and improving the health of that basal layer. And that's the basal layer of your skin is what skin cells is what generates the new skin cells as you're shedding. All right, so you're generating new skin. Well, that's the basal layer. So it's important to improve the basal health, the dermal health, and the topical health. So please go to my store, get the collagen separately or with the skincare anti-aging boxes that I have. Really important. Use discount 5, you get $5 off. Now I was talking about the structural nanosilver. It's a dual product. Like I said, you can get it in the skincare box, beginners and advanced, with the collagen. Or you can get it separately, it's up to you. I have it in a tube form and in a dispenser. Have some at your work, have some at home, because you never know when you need it. It's a dual purpose. It helps to improve your skin. You can put it on your skin, you know, at night, exfoliate in the morning, improves the topical part of your skin. In addition, it will help to heal wounds, cuts, abrasions, minor burns quicker. And you use it during the cold season. So you can put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, around your eyes, around your ears, lightly coat your nostrils, stays active for 5.5 hours. So it's really important to have it at work or at home because you never know when someone's sick. So just be prepared. Get a couple tubes of the structural nanosilver gel or the quick dispenser, carry it around on in your backpack. Let's say that you're in a high density area like New York, put it on your hands while you're going through the mass transit. It's a great way to keep your hands sanitized. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver gel and the collagen. All right, let's go to Al Jazeera because, you know, Al Jazeera has nothing positive to say about about Americana.
Cleansing. And it's really phenomenal that the new president of the United States found, his twin soul in Israel's former national security minister, who we all know his record. He's a racist, fanatic, fascist, who even Netanyahu could not withstand. So here we are. But beyond that, there's no doubt that President Trump has just saved the Israeli government from itself and from imploding because of the ongoing ceasefire talks. He basically gave a lending hand to Netanyahu. The entire surreal evening yesterday could be summarized by Netanyahu's smugness. The man who's accused of war crimes by the International Criminal Court, the man who's unpopular in his own country, accused of responsibility for the October 7 failure, accused of 4 major corruption charges. That man, has now been given a new life by the American president.
Trump's plan for Gaza isn't the only one causing anger abroad. In Zimbabwe, health workers are warning the suspension of foreign aid by President Trump will hurt the most vulnerable communities. His administration is slashing the workforce of the Agency for International Development, which distributes billions of dollars in aid. Many HIV/AIDS patients fear they'll no longer receive life-saving medicine. Paramotasa reports from Epworth in northeastern Zimbabwe.
No matter how busy her day gets, Muchaneta Savano can't forget to take her medication. The 48-year-old says she gets her antiretroviral treatment for free from aid agencies. She was shocked to hear that the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has abruptly suspended its operations and funding for at least 90 days. Some life-saving HIV treatment is continuing, but no one knows how long that will last.
We are going to die. That's what it means. They must have pity on us. We need that money so we can keep getting our medication.
USAID distributes billions in aid to non-governmental organizations, aid groups, and nonprofits around the world. The US gave sub-Saharan Africa more than $6.5 billion in humanitarian.
Now, I'm against the corruption with USAID and all that and reducing funding. The problem with this particular issue, because it's all about the nuance. If you stop funding for medication to bring down the viral load of individuals that have HIV, then what you will have is an HIV outbreak. Because what will happen is the viral load in the society will be higher, and the chances of other individuals getting it increases. So this is a warning sign. This is a warning sign. Because you're not going to stop procreation, right? You're not going to stop people having sex, right? So if you keep the viral load down, you're reducing the chances of spreading in the society. But if people are not getting their medication, the viral loads in these patients will go up, and eventually people will be passing this on from one person to another. So there can be an outbreak in Africa with HIV. I mean, they already have outbreaks of HIV with medication being administered. Just imagine when there's not medication there to keep the viral load down. So that's problematic. All right, let's go back there. Continue on with
10 people, at least 5 people were seriously wounded. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and Sweden's King and Queen visited the site on Wednesday to pay their respects. Polls have closed in the Indian capital territory of Delhi, where candidates are vying for a place in the 70-seat Legislative Assembly. 15 million people are registered to vote, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party up against the ruling Aam Aadmi Party, led by his rival and anti-corruption crusader.
I'm going to go to live now here for a second.
For this instance, and this comes after the Trump administration says that it is pulling almost all U.S. Agency for International Development workers off the job and out of the field worldwide, all but ending this mission to shore up American security. Now, the administration did notify USAID workers in emails and with a notice posted online. This comes after there's been a lot of questions when it comes to where this funding is going. We do know that Secretary of State Rubio.
Now think about this.
Now,
Looking at all the different data points, right? The metadata on this. You reduce funding. An outbreak happens. And you have policies within the government, within the Trump administration, where you're having buyouts for CIA and FBI. How many of them will take the buyout? Who knows? But it's opening up what I was saying. I'm concerned of a 9/11 like event taking place in 2025 or 2026, because the national security state doesn't want to lose power and funding. But what Trump is doing, at least right now, is taking power away. He's trying to shrink the CIA. He's trying to shrink the national security state, which is what needs to happen. But powerful people will try to find ways to orchestrate an event. So something, a 9/11-like thing could happen. Now, it doesn't mean it's a plane and it's, crashing into a building. Probably not. But something like it is brewing. And so to blame Trump because he gutted the CIA seems to be an easy prediction on this one. Because the national security state would love to blame Trump on something and to try to weaken his presidency and to weaken the Republican Party as they move into midterm elections in 2026. So this is the thing that we have to pay very close attention to. All right, let's go back to
multifamily home buyers, it's going to affect office. It's still going to trickle through the rest of all the sectors of real estate. So yes, you're right. That's a great segue into real estate is where we are in interest rates. And that's the big unknown and waiting and seeing with the inflation being where it is and the economy doing well. It's a wait and see approach.
Yeah, just how quickly we re-rated really. We're looking at just over 40 basis points cuts priced into world implied rate probability. Morgan Stanley sees just one cut now in June, rounded 2 in March and June. How quickly does that feed through to prices?
It actually feeds through quicker than it's even announced. It's almost like people know before and anticipate it. So the valuation is already baked into it. And so it feeds in immediately. And so when you think that Feds are going to announce it and things are going to move drastically, it's already moved once the anticipation is there and what they think they're going to do, what they think is going to happen with those rates.
Let's talk about this office. What are the trends here in office? I guess the first question is anybody going to call a bottom? Has anybody called a bottom? Is anybody thinking about that?
Do you want me to make a prediction right here?
Please.
Should we do it?
Yeah,
okay, so prediction that I heard was 2026, New York City is going to have a shortage of office available.
No.
A shortage.
No.
Because there's been a lot less construction. We do have some conversions, not a lot, but there will be some conversions to residential. The trophy buildings are occupied, which is going to help the A's and B's. And so, we know that tech is going back to work. We've heard those announcements. Today, this place is the busiest it's been, I think, in a long time. And media has made an announcement that they need to start coming back to work. So with everybody making those announcements of back to work, there's been less office coming on the market in the last 2 years or 3 years because of construction costs.
I think the AI is going to come in and it's going to be reducing the number of the workforce. You really need as many people in your organization, especially when there's an economic downturn and they start laying people off. No, I think New York's in a decline when it comes to commercial real estate.
Of the talent is in San Francisco based. Okay. And so the VC venture capital firms that are funding the AI are mandating that they want to see the people and they want that in-office experience. And so if 83.2% of our talent is in the San Francisco Bay Area, who are funding and working on the AI.
Bondi is sworn in as U.S. Attorney General now. So another win for Trump. Are you tired of winning?
In New York City, that gives you a sense of where valuations are.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of movement. I think there was a 57th Street, there's a property that just was acquired. And so people are moving and the values are, strangely enough, they're holding up. And so the whole thing is the buyer and the seller is willing to come up to where they think prices are. And I think yesterday there was a large transaction that just happened on 57th Street, which is noteworthy, I think.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think the bottom looks like?
I'm hoping we passed it.
Okay.
I think we're headed to a really good direction from
so I guess what the trajectory from now until 2026 does look like. Is it bumpy? Is it a straight line up? Is it a curve?
So everyone was hoping for a soft landing, and I think we got the soft landing. And so when you're looking for the future to where people are seeing where we're at, secondary markets are going to be really, really hot. So is the live, work, play environment. And that type of work. Now,
really, everything is just so hunky-dory with the commercial real estate. Really. Yeah, crime is rampant in New York. People want to leave New York. I don't believe this story for a second. This sounds like someone tried to hire her that is part of sort of REIT commercial real estate REIT fund. Bullshit.
If we give people that sort of environment, I think it's gonna really, really work. And then looking at operational real estate, data centers.
Yeah.
Right, so there is a lot of optimism out there in real
Oh,
estate,
really?
as to what
If
we're looking for.
DeepSeek is real, you won't need all these, tons of floors of data centers, because it's going to be in a room with a bunch of racks with servers, but not floors in, high rises in New York. I mean, the optimism from her is just a little bit too exuberant.
Experience for. I mean, I know that we read the 5 or 4 big boxes that are closing stores, and so that scares everybody a little.
She's
So
a
again, it's
managing
coming back to
partner.
that.
She's a managing partner and head of real estate. Of course she's gonna put the lipstick on the pig and say the pig looks like a beautiful woman, and and she's a Victoria's Secret model. The reality of the situation is New York is a shithole right now, and there's no signs of it changing.
For Eisner Amper, and she comes with predictions.
Oh boy.
And I love it. I love that. It's huge. All right, come on. Barry Ritholtz, founder of Ritholtz Wealth Management and host of Masters in Business, will be joining us for his take on the markets. It's kind of a nothing.
I think Bloomberg needs to see some Cash Jordan. Maybe we can find a video from Cash Jordan, because he seems to be a regular on the show. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the omega-3, help with your cardiovascular health, bring down LDL levels, increase your HDL levels, improve your total cholesterol, reduce your red blood cells from sticking too much, because that produces, oversticking will produce clots. You don't want that. And omega-3 also helps to bring down systemic inflammation. Improve your cardiovascular health by taking omega-3 every day. Let me repeat that. Every day you should be taking omega-3. Digestive enzyme complex. You get older, your pancreas doesn't work as well. I don't care if you're healthy or not. Your pancreas ages, and it doesn't produce the enzymes to break up food as well. So it's important to lower the stress on your pancreas by taking the digestive enzyme complex. This helps to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. Really important to reduce the load on your pancreas. That way you are absorbing your nutrients, you're breaking them up, you're reducing digestive issues. You're absorbing the energy, and you're letting your pancreas kind of have less load and kind of heal. All right. If it's overloaded, it's not functioning as well. In addition, if you are an athlete, it's really important to fuel your body pre-workout, post-workout. So taking digestive enzyme complex is going to help you break up those foodstuffs for your pre or post-workout nutrition to be able to absorb that energy. So if you're an athlete or someone 40 plus, that's any athlete or not, you should be taking digestive enzyme complex. It'll benefit. Reduce that load on your pancreas. And lastly, C60 is a major pillar to the core of my anti-aging protocol that helps to boost up your immune system. All right. What's the protocol? Max 35 for the first pillar. The second pillar, C60, soak up free radicals. The third pillar, ashwagandha, turmeric, lignans, bring down inflammation. And the fourth pillar, boost up energy levels and boost up your metabolism with Boomer Boost. So with that second pillar, C60 is a very potent antioxidant. I take a teaspoon of this every day. Every day, a teaspoon of it. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, or extra virgin olive oil in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. All right. By taking this every day, you're going to soak up those free radicals. You're going to improve your mitochondrial health. You're going to have more ATP. That's really important. And what will happen is your immune system will get better. The tissues and your cells will perform better. That means your organs will perform better. That means your immune system, your endocrine system, and your other bodily systems will perform better. Bringing down that free radical load. In addition, by bringing down and soaking up those free radicals in your bloodstream, you're reducing the chances of plaque buildup. Why? Because it's oxidized LDL that causes plaque. If you reduce your LDL and you reduce the free radicals in your bloodstream, you're reducing plaque. Oh, amazing how that works. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, improve your health, improve your cardiovascular system, improve your endocrine system, improve your immune system by taking strong antioxidants. Take C60, take a teaspoon a day, every day, and you will notice huge benefits. Now, this is only one pillar of a 4-pillar core protocol. Max 35, C60, turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans, and boomer boost. You do all that, boom, you have really supercharged your health. And you can add stuff to it to tweak and improve your protocol. Now, I've been saying this for 5 years. Now you can roll the, you can roll the videos, going all the way back to 2020. All right. The people that have been watching me for a long time, you've noticed that I'm not aging. You ever wonder why? No, I'm not a vampire. All right. It's because my protocol works. Now look at 5 years ago where Alex Jones was and where he is today. I haven't changed in 5 years. I look the same. I'm as healthy, I'm the same. Alex Jones looks a lot older. And Alex Jones is younger chronologically than I am. My protocol, the point I'm making, isn't that Alex Jones looks like a schlub and he's out of shape and aged. That's not the point. The point is my protocol works. My protocol works. Listen, I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. I know what I'm talking about here. Now, over the decades, other supplements and how to stack and how to improve it has happened. So there's been, tweaking. But the point that I'm making here is that what I am doing works. Take the knowledge that I have, the things that I've been doing to improve your health. And it's a holistic approach. It's not about just supplementation. It's about diet and exercise and balancing and stretching, challenging your mind, reading and writing, talking to people in the real world, mindfulness, some spirituality, meditation. When you do all these things, resistance training, some cardiovascular training, when you do all the proper sleep, it's a holistic approach, proper supplementation. When you do all these things on a regular basis, you are slowing down the aging process. You're reducing the effects of aging. And what happens is that when you look at your cohort group, when you look at your peer group that's not doing it, they're aging much faster than you are. The proof isn't, if you don't believe me, just try this core, the Max 35, the C60, the turmeric, the ashwagandha, the lignans, and the boomer boost. Do that for 1 year. Journal it out. Compare it to people that aren't doing that. And I'm willing to bet that you're going to notice some major benefits in health. Now, you can take my advice or don't take my advice. Now, the ones that do take my advice, they're far better off. And there's a compound effect. The earlier you do this, the better you are. It's just like compound interest.
I don't know what to call them, Trumpisms, where we would target a specific company or a CEO. And when that first started to happen, there'd be this huge overreaction, and then the pendulum would swing the other way, and it would sort of stabilize. And that worked for a while, but eventually the market figured out, oh, this is all noise, zero signal. And we're kind of going through the same process in 2025, in the beginning of Trump 2.0. So this week is a perfect example. We get this crazy set of announcements over the weekend, 25% tariffs on our closest trading partners. Don't worry about the facts. Here's what we want. And then first Mexico agrees to do something that they've already been doing. Like 10,000 troops at the border, we have 15,000 troops. All right, we'll draw 5,000 troops down. And the same thing with Canada. So we create this crazy problem. We create, that's artificial. We create a solution. I think the markets have kind of sussed out that there's a whole lot more Sturm und Drang. There's a whole lot more noise than signal here. And let's watch what actually is done as opposed to what's being said.
So Barry,
show us the legislation, show us the policy. Don't, you know, the social media trolling, and that's all it seems to be to the market. The market's saying, "Oh, this is just trolling. We're going to ignore it."
So Barry, does that mean that the reaction function that we saw, say, Friday, slowly dies out?
Yeah, that's been, I mean, 2016, 2017 is a perfect example. He would target specific companies. I did a column for Bloomberg where I created two different indexes. One is the, you know, the anti-Trump index, where it was people that were not kowtowing.
Bloomberg in the previous segment was talking to the commercial real estate investment manager. She was saying people are going back to work. All right. And Barry, Bloomberg Masters in Business podcast host, is working in his living room or in his den at home. So what is it? Is it that commercial real estate is really going to be booming this year and next year? I don't think so. I really don't think so. This is the point I'm making. It says a lot of these people, these talking heads, they say something, and then you look at the just open your eyes and look at the environment you live in. That's like, does that make sense to what someone's saying? And if not, then start questioning it. Maybe maybe your particular area is a little different, but it's pay attention to the nuance. Pay attention to what people are saying and pay attention to the nuance. Can't broad brush everything, right? Sometimes you can. Sometimes it's important to broad brush a concept, but then have appreciation for the nuance. And here's a perfect example of, like, is that real estate fund manager for commercial real estate really selling you a bag of rocks or a bag of gems? It seems like a bag of rocks to me, because, you know, Barry's working in his den. I mean, something's not right. And this is Bloomberg.
And the other were the companies that Trump was targeting, and like the oligarch index and the woke index. And what was kind of funny is you had a ton of volatility in the beginning, and within a few weeks, that volatility just went away because people came to realize it's just noise. And look, there are going to be a whole lot of policy changes, and there's going to be a whole lot of things that are going to be different under this presidency. But we have to see what's actually being done. And a perfect example, the Elon Musk letter, whoever sent it, telling all the 3 million federal employees that they're being laid off, and here's a buyout option. And I just sort of kind of run on a cable news channel, 20,000 federal workers take the buyout out of 3 million. You know, you look at that and you do the math. That's 0.0067%. It's not even a rounding error. So let's actually.
But in corporate, you offer them a buyout. And then what happens? You go, well, there's not that many people that took it. You offer another buyout. Sometimes it's a little bit better buyout. Sometimes it's a little less. Depends on the company. And then all of a sudden, some more people take it. And then you start signaling that there's layoffs coming. So the people start going, oh, maybe I should have took a buyout. And you go, well, we're going to offer another potential buyout. So you give them a 3-pulse signal. And then the ones that didn't take it, then you start laying them off. And then they whine that they didn't get the buyout. Well, you should have took the buyout when we offered it. That's how corporate works. And I wouldn't be surprised that's how Elon Musk is working. Now, in terms of the signal, with the tariffs, is it noise, or is it give people an opportunity to front load their warehouses before the tariffs hit? And I think that Trump gave certain automakers another 30 days to get their shit together before it hits. That's what I think, but we'll see. So it's not just noise. People are reacting. There is a reaction function because they're front loading their warehouses. So they're concerned. But he didn't say that because he's an expert. And you gotta be worried about experts, especially on Bloomberg, especially when they talk about Trump, because they seem to get it wrong every day.
What happens? Like, I am not a MAGA sort of voter, but you have to look at what's actually happening versus an endless fire hose of noise. That flood the zone approach has been very effective for Trump to kind of just overwhelm people.
No. It's not. No. It is flooding the system, but it's flooding the system because of activity, real activity. I mean, I've been covering this since he became president. All right. It's tough to keep up with what's going on because in the Biden administration, very little was happening. And there would be something internationally that takes place. And then sometimes the Biden administration would be reactive, not proactive. Trump is being very proactive on many fronts, many fronts. And so it's not noise. What it is that journalists like Barry, the professional, can't keep up the pace because they're used to low frequency administration by the Bidens. So he's going to try to demonize. He's going to try to demonize Trump, say it's all noise. But what it is there's a lot of activity going on. If you watch everything that's going on with Rubio overseas, or with what's going on in Gaza, or what's going on with tariffs, or what's going on with Doge, I mean, there's just a lot going on. Let alone plane crashes and helicopter crashes.
It's being done. The thing that I'm focused on is when are they, and in what context are they going to renew the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act? And what else is on the agenda that's actually going to happen? No, Canada is not going to become the 51st state. No, by the way, Canada, far more liberal than the United States, huge area. So are we really going to bring in 12 states that are likely to vote Democrat? I don't think so. Are we going to invade Greenland or Panama? I don't think so. I don't think it's really, is Gaza going to become a province of the United States? Like, all of this stuff is just, you have to step back and say, rationally, is any of this going to happen? Or is this just, right? I don't recall running on, I want to make Gaza a province in the United States and we're going to make Canada.
So Barry, if people are successful, maybe sifting out some of the noise, what are the fundamentals that you're looking at right now in this market?
So you guys just, John Tucker just talked about 78% of earnings report were upside surprises. I want to say the average is somewhere in the mid-60s. So on average, earnings are doing better than expected. I don't think we're just going to throw out every regulation. I don't know how you do that, but I do expect to see some form of deregulation. Certainly expect to see the FTC be less aggressive. That means more mergers and acquisitions, more IPOs, more stock buybacks, more secondaries. All these things tend to be supportive of higher stock prices. If everything else being equal, and there is no, outside externality that affects things, like a random event like Russia invading Ukraine, all other things being equal, a defanged FTC tends to allow a lot more market activity, meaning mergers.
But it also depends on if we have an inflationary pulse. Short term, maybe transitory because of the tariffs. The economy is running hot. The Federal Reserve may have to raise rates. So if the rates go up, then that means the deal is more costly. So mergers and acquisitions may not be as prevalent just because there's less regulation, or there's deregulation that's going on. Big part of it is what the Federal Reserve does. I noticed that when the Federal Reserve decides to cut rates, you got lots of M&A guys over at the Harvard Club that are all smiling. But the moment that the Federal Reserve decides to, when they lower rates, when the Federal Reserve lowers rates, the M&A people over at the Harvard Club start smiling. When the Federal Reserve raises rates, they look like they're going to shit their pants. So the Fed funds rate, the Fed rate, is a very important variable. But regulation is also an important variable. But Fed policy, monetary policy, is a big determinant factor. So Barry the expert at Bloomberg. All right. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the zeolite. Zeolite will remove heavy metals from your body, toxins and chemicals, really important. You can take this every day, or you can just do a detox protocol once or twice a year. To do it every day, take 2 drops, small drops, underneath your tongue, drink it with filtered water. Take it every day throughout the year. If you're just detoxing once or twice a year, then what you want to do is take 4 to 5 drops, small drops, underneath your tongue, drink the filtered water every day, do that every day, and then use up the bottle. Do that once or twice a year. But it is better to do a maintenance throughout the whole year. But also, you need to drink filtered water on a regular basis. You need to stop eating processed foods because that has a lot of chemicals in it, and clean your environment. Be mindful of cleaning supplies and paints and chemicals that are stored in your house, because you're breathing that stuff in, and that's affecting your endocrine system. So cleaning your household, making sure you filter your water, making sure that you eat better foods, and taking zeolite is really important to detoxify your body. Now, taking zeolite long term is also going to help you to get rid of those forever chemicals that have been building up in your body. You've been hearing in the news about PFAS chemicals. These are the forever chemicals. Well, you can get rid of those, but it takes time and diligence. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the zeolite. Or don't get the zeolite and just have the chemicals build up in your body, and don't be surprised that you have problems with your endocrine system and your immune system. But if you take zeolite, you're going to improve your body because you're getting rid of those toxins. Basically, zeolite, how it works is that it's going to bind to the toxin, and it's going to allow you to urinate it out in 6 to 8 hours.
There was another one who Anna spoke to at the beginning of the story, that they produce like cement that's used or concrete rather, that's used in highway barriers and roads, and how, speaking of this race to the border to try to get shipments in before the tariffs happen. So
just a flurry of calls between clients and executives at this company to really just try to make sure that we're going to beat this deadline. And yeah, again, like a lot of this was happening over the weekend. That's when the tariff announcement first came out. Then Monday, we're going to back off, give people 30 days, figure it out. But you can't just wait and see what's going to happen in 30 days. I think for all companies right now, the idea is very much still that tariffs are coming in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, so there is a reaction function, and maybe Barry was wrong.
Amazing.
Molly, really appreciate it. Molly Smith, a U.S. economy editor, looking at some of the manufacturers, the smaller guys, and kind of what they're doing as we head into the tariff world. But the question, and goes back to Barry, you can't price it.
No.
You can't price it, and if you do, the pricing only lasts like a day.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's what we try to do with Barry is just kind of get a sense of what a real money manager is doing. He's saying he's focusing on the fundamental.
You got to think of it like a future. You can't just price it in and say that, oh, it happened. You got to price it in as a future contract. If the probability of this happens, the price, your probability cone is predicting this price. If it doesn't happen, the probability cone is predicting a different price. So you're working in the world of quantum, like quantum mechanics. All right. It could be either price, but you don't know until something happens, until that probability function collapses and the reality sets in. But you can price in futures. So you can price it in, honey. It's just that it's more complicated. It's not just knee-jerk reaction pricing. All right, Balance of Power is coming up, which is a good show, even though talking heads on there are idiots. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the vitamin D3 and the K2, stack them together to help with your cardiovascular health and your bone health. Really important. This is a great stack. Do some resistance training. Take, calcium as a supplement or drink milk. I drink milk for my calcium intake. And really improve your bone health and your cardiovascular health. Make sure you do some resistance training. It's increasing your bone density is really important. Now, to further build on this stack for your cardiovascular health, taking nattokinase is really important. It's fibrinolytic and it will bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. So it's going to improve your total cholesterol. All right. So it's going to prevent the clots, and it's going to help with improving your lipid profile. Really important, because when you do that, then what happens is that you're reducing the chances of building up further plaque. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, take nattokinase, take the D3 and the K2. It's dual purpose. It's helping with your bones, and it's also helping with your cardiovascular health. All right. Let's go to Bloomberg on Trump tariffs.
Kind of the low-hanging fruit, both practically and politically right now, like the USAID stuff. But this is, and it is outrageous as some of the things that the Doge committee is finding, and I agree that some of them are pretty silly. I think that materially, we're not really going to be able to do a lot until you get to kind of more serious items, like Medicare, Medicaid, defense, and yeah, the hot ticket third rail type stuff, and that's going to be much tougher. And so I think we're still in the early parts of sort of political theater on Trumponomics, and then of course we have the whole separate issue of tariffs.
And that gets me to the next question. I mean, you look at Trump's policies overall, they're both populist and, as you described them, standard Republican. But so far, he's chosen to focus on trade war over, say, cutting taxes. So what does this tell you about Trumponomics in this second go-round rather than the first attempt?
Yeah, so I mean, he obviously came right out of the gate with the tariffs over this past weekend that have been walked back temporarily. So it appears they're serious there. We'll see. The fact that Mexico and Canada kind of agreed to do things that they had already agreed to do. I mean, Mexico had 10 to 15,000 troops on its border going back to 2017, and a promise they made to Trump the first go around and reiterated with Biden.
Another important thing that he's saying is that they were more in Bloomberg in the way they frame their questions is that she's not paying attention to the taxes, the tax reduction, like he promised. He's just focused on tariffs. And the globalists, all they care about, they want free trade. Free trade. The globalists want free trade. The transnational capitalists want free trade. They don't care about the American worker, and they want taxes lower. So they're complaining that they're not getting their taxes lowered because they don't like the other side of the equation on raising tariffs and trying to rebuild the United States manufacturing base and to stop this unfair trade that's going on. But the globalists, they'll only focus on what he's not doing. They'll focus on things that will hurt them. And if they're demonized, it's a real simple litmus test. If the globalists are complaining, then most likely it's better for you in the long term. If the globalists are complaining that tariffs are bad, most likely in the long term, it's good for your jobs. If the globalists are complaining about something, it's because they're losing money. They don't care about you. They don't care one drop of concern about you. None. Zero.
For good or bad, I didn't have to, check my X feed first thing in the morning to see what was coming out of the White House overnight. And so, we're back to a much more volatile set of political pronouncements and streams and walkbacks, and it's a little more uncertainty.
Well, how much confidence do you have in the people around Trump? Because Trump himself, he's just sort of this vortex. But there are some relatively competent people around him, including the Treasury Secretary, who you have some familiarity with back when you were running Genecos. He was one of your first analysts out there.
He was my first analyst.
So you liked him then. Do you still like him now?
I like Scott Benson an awful lot. We don't share the same politics, but he's a man of real character, and I think he was probably the best man for the job in the political arena. So I'm hoping he does well. I think he will do well, hopefully, and I know he has the country's best interests at heart.
And you did see him, but you didn't actually get to talk to him about what he's doing right now.
Well, I was able to see him and congratulate him after he got the nod. So he's got his hands full.
You've described the last few years as the golden age of fraud, money accounting, questionable behavior on the parts of investors, of companies. How would you describe where we are now, given that the lines between government and business are pretty much blurred, more intertwined than ever? You've got Elon Musk running Doge. You've got the president selling his own meme coin. You've got regulators perhaps taking their hands off the wheel completely.
Yeah, I'm hard pressed to think that we're going to see less of it in the near term. It sure seems like we're going to see more of it. Look, this is a cycle the likes of which I've never seen, and the willingness of people to believe things that just simply aren't true. It never ceases to amaze me, particularly as the cycle carries on, and the willingness of management teams now to project way into the future and make all kinds of claims and promises, I think is also sort of unprecedented. It's always been there, but it's greater now. I've always said that bull markets place a premium on promises and bear markets discount reality. And right now, there's lots of companies making lots of promises.
Lots of promises, but what is the reality? And to Scarlett's point, you have some conflicts of interest in some of the folks who are, I don't know if they're in charge. They would say they're not in charge, but certainly sort of leading the charge in sort of trying to sort of root out whatever they think could potentially be walking down here. If you're not a friend of Elon Musk or a friend of Trump, and you're running a company or an investment fund, should you be worried?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how personal it's all going to get to companies and individuals, but I am concerned that we have this whole new structure set up with people that are basically
if you're demonizing Elon. The question is why and what exactly? Are you trying to prevent him from reducing the corruption? Why would you want to prevent him from reducing the corruption unless you're on the take? Why would you want to get rid of ineffectual employees in the national security state unless you're one of those employees that benefits and having a job in being poor at the job? Your performance at the job is poor. So you got to question, why are they demonizing? If you have individuals that are demonizing RFK about his stance on certain things about big pharma, why are you that way? Is it because you lose money, wealth, sales, because he's shining a light on the nefarious activities of big pharma? So let's always question when these people are demonizing Trump and Trump's minion, all right? Why and what are they saying? And I'm willing to bet that you go one or two layers deep, and you'll realize that they benefit from the old policy, and they will be hurt by a new policy, a new structure. It's almost always that way. And when it comes to globalization, like this guy, America First is not a global agenda. It's a localism. There's localization. Now, it doesn't mean that you should be a pacifist in certain cases. But people that have made a lot of money on globalization, a restructuring to localization, that means that their portfolio, their way of life, their cash flows get perturbed. And then they'll go, oh, he's a bad guy, but make sure that you give me a tax break. So they only want to focus on their benefit, not the whole equation on the right and the left side of the equation.
Talking about China's debt bubble and its broken economic model. What does the imposition of tariffs, now an additional 10%, but perhaps going even higher, mean for that long-term decline?
Yeah, it doesn't help it, that's for sure, because I mean, China saw fewer reliance on net exports after 2010 when we first put out our warning, and that it's growing again. And part of that is due to the fact that the investment-driven model that we've been crying wolf about forever, albeit correctly, is losing its impetus to continue to grow. And the banking system is still bloated. And we've seen now problems in the residential real estate area completely trickle down into the actual developers. So they've got a model that really now is facing kind of a crossroads with what they're going to do. And the U.S. putting on major tariffs to one of their few thriving parts of the engine, the export manufacturing area, isn't going to help.
All right, a moment of reckoning then perhaps for China. We're going to take a quick break for just a moment. We're going to have more with Jim Chanos, president and founder of Chanos & Company. Keep it right here. This is Bloomberg.
And just remember,
balance of power here on Bloomberg.
Just remember, it was Wall Street that built up the PLA. It was Wall Street that built up the CCP. It's Wall Street that built up China. Over, once George Bush Jr. gave favorable status to China in his first term, it was off to the races in terms of growing China. And now it's to the point where we may need a military to push back the PLA because their encroachment on Taiwan. But thank you, Wall Street, for making all that money. Thank you, Walden family, for sending your jobs overseas so you can buy spatulas for 79 cents at Walmart. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? I don't think so. I really don't think so. All right, let's go to Al Jazeera.
The president, who was speaking to reporters just a moment ago, swearing in for the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, he says that everybody loves it That's all he had to say about it, but already he is marketing his proposal. Now, in terms of reaction on Capitol Hill, where we should point out the Israeli Prime Minister will be on Thursday, they were a little bit more guarded in their language, but they also said that, well, it was a surprising development in terms of the plan for Palestinians never to return to Gaza, and instead for Donald Trump saying that this instead would be developed into an area for the world's people, and this would not be something that Palestinians would return to. Instead, they would live in Egypt or Jordan, despite the rejection of that plan by those countries' leaders. They said it's something that they will applaud. They still need to get the details on it, but they do believe this is a good development and something that they will back 100%. Because why they support this is that they believe the United States is 100% behind the support of Israel, and they say this will eliminate any threat from Hamas and its financial backer, Iran.
And other than a smiling or grinning Netanyahu as Donald Trump was talking about this, it seems most of the world's leaders have been reacting quite negatively to this. How is the White House dealing with that pushback?
We're going to hear more at 18 GMT. That is when the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, will be holding her press briefing. But in the interim, what I can tell you is that it doesn't appear that the White House is too concerned about how the rest of the world is reacting. In fact, just the opposite, because you look at how the president has been conducting himself thus far. This isn't the first area or country or nation that the United States has proposed that it take over. This is the latest in a line of them, in fact. Panama, Canada, Greenland, and now Gaza. So this is a president that is not looking to run for re-election, at least hasn't said so far, and the Constitution does not allow it. So he's not looking to try and do that, and he doesn't have to seek the approval of the American people, and he certainly doesn't seem to be looking to seek the approval of the rest of the world either.
I'll leave it there. Thanks so much. Kimberly Howkett. Still ahead on Al Jazeera, concerns in Zimbabwe about US aid cuts. We look at the impact on the public health system, especially support for people living with HIV.
All right, let's go back
Through
to
economic
Bloomberg.
meltdowns.
The leader Steve Scalise talking about $1 trillion in savings. Mike Johnson saying the status of the debate is up in the air at the moment when it comes to one bill versus two. We asked Senator Bill Hagerty, the Republican from Tennessee, about this yesterday because there is a lot of talk now about the Senate stepping up and jamming the House. We've seen this movie before. Here's what Hagerty said.
We know the American public expects us to address the tax package, and they're going to do that. We have a number of other issues that we're trying to address at the same time. How we do it from a process standpoint, I'm much less concerned about. I think the concern is that we get it done quickly, that we get it done efficiently, and I'm optimistic that we will get it done. Despite the procedural back and forth between the House and the Senate, we're going to get it done, and we're very focused on it.
Remember when they were going to figure all this out on the patio at Mar-a-Lago? Then they were going to figure it out at Doral. Now it's back to Mar-a-Lago. Friday night, 2 nights from now, Senate Republicans will gather to urge Donald Trump to stop waiting for the House. Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, talking to Axios, says he expects the message to be, "It's now, Mr. President. It's time to move. We have this." This will be interesting to watch unfold in the coming weeks with, as I mentioned, 6 weeks to go. One of the other major stories that we're following right now is the future landscape in the Middle East after President Trump's bilateral news conference with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. That was quite a romp last evening, and there are great questions about what exactly the president meant and if he meant it when he said that the U.S. would take over Gaza. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip in what he called a long-term ownership position, having frequently referred to this as beautiful oceanfront property. What happens to the 2 million Palestinians who live there? We'll talk to columnist Mark Champion next on Bloomberg.
They're always only looking at the one side of the equation. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I've added NAC to my stack. Why? To boost up glutathione levels. Higher glutathione levels helps to soak up free radicals. NAC also helps to filter your liver and your kidney, and NAC helps to calm your nervous system, reduce anxiety. So please go to my store, get the NAC, boost up your glutathione levels, add this to your daily stack. Really important, especially when you get older. Ubiquinol. This is the most bioavailable CoQ10 that you can buy. Ubiquinol is very important as an antioxidant to soak up free radicals, to help with your mitochondrial health, boost up energy levels. You'll have more ATP, and ubiquinol soaks up free radicals because it's an antioxidant. And ubiquinol helps with neural health. Very important, especially when you become 40 plus years of age. You need to take supplements to improve your neural health and do some exercising. Activate those muscles, move around, balance. Balancing is really important to activate your cerebellum. Stretching, because you have different nerves that are attached to the ends of your muscles and then inside your muscles. And by stretching your muscles and activating those tendons, stretching those tendons, and right, when you're doing that, you're activating these nerve endings. Really important, because when you're activating these nerves, then they stay healthy. They stay, but if you don't activate them, they start to atrophy, become weaker, and the muscle starts to atrophy, and your coordination doesn't perform as well. So it's really important to exercise, train your mind. Your mind, by reading and writing and learning new things, is just like a muscle, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. And taking proper supplementation to protect the neural health is really important. And you should start that at age 40. And then NAD+. NAD+ boosts up energy levels. That means you have more ATP. It helps to repair DNA damage, which is really important when you get older. And NAD+ helps to protect neurons. It's synergistic with ubiquinol. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take NAD+. All right, let's listen to the crazy rhetoric over at the DC rally.
All of us must speak up. All of us must speak truth to power. This is still the United States of America. We have a voice. You don't just have a voice if you're a billionaire. You have a voice. You don't just have a voice if you're the president of the United States. You have a voice. You don't just have the voice if you're connected or elected. You have a voice. Stop Trump. We did it in 2000.
All right, so it does appear as though this audio is.
Have you noticed that the Democratic Party is all about people getting up on stage with a mic and just screaming and blaming Trump for everything and saying that your civil liberties are being taken away and blah, blah, blah. The Democratic Party has literally tried to destroy this country. Literally tried to destroy this country. And they're a bunch of whiners, just like the Euro whiners. They are only focused on the corruption. They're only focused on maintaining the status quo. Trump is literally, we kept on saying drain the swamp. He's literally doing it in front of our eyes. He just gave the whole staff of the CIA buyouts. Now, will they take them? I don't know what the percentage is that will take it. Probably small. But the point is that you're literally seeing him draining the swamp. Now, unfortunately, it's not draining fast enough. But the Democrats, they don't want you to drain the swamp. The Democrats want the status quo because that's where all the corruption is. Look at what's been coming out on X about the corruption on US aid. Crazy what's been going on. And I'm willing to bet that there were a lot of like pay-to-play payments going back and forth with the Democratic Party. Because that's how they that's how they operate. That's their modus operandi.
First term, the conversation about the U.S. suddenly now taking over the Gaza Strip has captured the attention of people from world capitals. As the president said, the people of the world would live there after it was rebuilt. A jaw-dropping reversal, as the New York Times calls it. We're back to the do you take him seriously or literally? Mark Champion has a take on this. We're going to talk to him in a moment as we bring you back to the East Room at the White House, a late news conference with Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. You've heard him flirt with this idea before, beautiful waterfront property, could have great condos, just like he says about North Korea. Here was the president last evening.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent.
Tough to be cute at a moment like this. Not that you would ever accuse me of being a wise guy. Reaction from the Saudi Foreign Ministry. Any violation of the rights of the Palestinian people, whether through settlement, land annexation, or attempts to displace them, rejected. And as Mark Champion writes today on Bloomberg Opinion, Gaza is not a real estate project. He says it's a highly complex 70-year-old territorial dispute made intractable by the politics of identity, religion, national determination, and an accumulated history of violence and hate from both sides. It's quite a piece of writing. Him seriously? Are you taking him literally?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what that kind of formula even means anymore. I mean, essentially, you've got a president who is big in real estate. His son-in-law is big in real estate. His envoy to the Middle East is big in real estate, and all of them have talked about, for some time, about Gaza as a real estate project. So, I think it's actually kind of foolish not to take him somewhat seriously in that he thinks about it in those terms. And I think that's what's rather worrying, because this is an issue of state, not of real estate. And it is extremely difficult to resolve. It's going to take an awful lot of effort. We're just not going to get there if you have this kind of nonsense, which frankly it is.
I don't know that we could get into President Trump's head here, and I wouldn't dare do that on the air, but the idea of somehow removing more than 2 million Palestinians is what a lot of people are struggling with here. Yes, Donald Trump says it's a hellhole, but these are people who are not interested in leaving that piece of land. Their neighbors in Egypt, Jordan, and other Gulf states, as you point out, probably are not either. And that's why people are asking about the idea of American troops on the ground. Does Donald Trump think that that's feasible here, to essentially start the massive military operation that would be required?
I find it very difficult to believe that he does. I mean, I have to imagine that, this is in part designed just to, just to distract. There is no real strategy that has been put forward by the Israelis in order to, find some sort of future for Gaza other than, perpetual occupation. And there is no, the Biden administration had a strategy that the Israelis didn't agree with, and it went nowhere. And what Trump is, putting forward here, I think is mainly a distraction. This is what I think is quite worrying. The fact is that ethnic cleansing is not uncommon in history, and we need to be careful about what is said here. There is the difficulty with that moving people off territory in order to solve problems is that it is both illegal and immoral and effective, and that has been the case through history. Many cases, unfortunately, where this has been done. So I think we need to be very careful when we start listening to a kind of description of this as a real estate deal where you just need to move the tenants out. And they'll be better off in an apartment we're going to build for them. It'll all be great and it's all for them. We have to be very careful about that.
Move them out, but apparently not move them back. Mark, Donald Trump was asked repeatedly who would live there. First of all, where would they go? It's its own question. Who would live there? He replied, quote, "I envision the world's people living there." He clarified to say the world's people. I think you'll make that into an international, unbelievable place. This is where things start to get less serious, no?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he hasn't kind of thought through the market. If you're thinking about it in terms of a real estate deal, I mean, there's another part to this which is it's pretty obvious who will move there, which is that the Israelis, there are settlers who very much want to move there, and that's probably where this would go. But difficult for him, an already impossible thing to sell. Even harder if you start saying, well, we're going to rebuild this thing and make it beautiful, and then it will be, essentially a part of Israel. It's very difficult to sort of put that forward, and he hasn't really, sort of joined all the dots there. It does have a very uncertain legal status, Gaza. It's not legally part of Israel. It's not legally part of Egypt. It's doesn't have a status as a state on its own. So he's kind of just living in that gray area.
King of Jordan is coming to the White House next week. What's he going to say about this?
Well, I mean, this kind of thing is really, really worrying for Jordan. It's a state that is, the majority of the population, their origin is Palestinian. Jordan has worked really hard to assimilate and to create a Jordanian nationality because they simply don't want to be the Palestinian state, and then to sort of take on all the problems that come with that, an extension of the West Bank, essentially. The population tripled at the end of the 1948 war, when Palestinians fled from Israel, and most of them went to Jordan. Many of them went to Jordan, so to have another influx of, say, another 500,000, whatever the number is, Palestinians, destitute, furious, it would be destabilizing. So I think we can predict that the King of Jordan will be very clear in that he does not want that to happen.
Well, we heard such a loud conversation about bringing Saudi Arabia back into the fold as we were wondering what the Oval Office discussions might include, the meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, that there might be an opportunity here to get back in talks with Saudi Arabia and introduce a new day here, maybe even add to the Abrams Accords. What does Saudi Arabia think about this? And could this, in fact, be enough to stop a deal like that from happening?
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting, the difference, between Trump's first term, when he was actually extremely successful, and one should give him a lot of credit for it in terms of getting the Abrams Accords. It was a moment when the interests of Saudi Arabia and some of the Gulf states who actually signed the accord. Saudi Arabia was sort of coming up behind and was going to sign it before October 7, 2023 happened. You know, the interesting point there is that their interests are very aligned, the Gulf states and the interests of Israel. They were all focused on the threat from Iran. Since October the 7th, 2023, since the war in Gaza, those interests have started to separate. Iran is weaker. The Saudis are less worried about that. Saudi interests, you know, that for themselves are very focused on making sure there's enough stability so they can carry forward their economic plans before they had, you know, more just geostrategic goals. So, you know, anything that would disturb that is now a problem for the Saudis. And it is very politically difficult for them to embrace the Israelis, to be seen as doing some of the work for the Israelis in Gaza after this war. It would be, you know, very politically unpopular within their own country. And although they're certainly not a democracy, they have to worry about that.
Kind of you to join us, Mark. Live from London, the headline, Trump's Gaza scheme may be more than fantasy. That's Mark Champion. OPIN Go on your terminal, or look for the column online at Bloomberg.com. Interesting take on it.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. This is the last pillar of the core health protocol that I've been talking about throughout the broadcast here. This will help to improve your energy levels, boost up your metabolism. It has a very extensive compound profile. Go to my website, take a look at it carefully. It also has 68 nutrients. It will help your cardiovascular health. It will help your brain health, muscle, and add strength, boost up your metabolism, increase energy levels. It's really important to take every day. There's a big scooper in here. It's about a month's supply. Mix it with soft foods like hummus or yogurt or a smoothie. You can mix it with filtered water or with milk. It's up to you how you want to take it, but take it every day. You take it in the morning or in let's say lunchtime. It's a great way to lose weight and to get the nutrients you need. In addition, you can use this as a fuel source if you're an athlete for your pre or post workout. All right. In addition, you can take this separately, but it works even better when you take it with the barley, especially gladiator barley, if you're looking for strength gains. So if you're an athlete or someone that wants to increase muscle, take the gladiator barley, which is a protein. You take a few small scoops of this, plus the big scoop out of the Boomer Boost, mix it together in the morning or in the afternoon. That's a superfood for you. You're going to lose weight. You're going to control your A1C levels and gain strength, especially when you do some resistance training. But again, if you're an athlete doing this stack for your pre or post workout, you're really going to supercharge your strength gains and your recovery. Now, you can also stack it or take separately the heirloom barley. And the heirloom barley is more focused on detoxification, bringing down inflammation, soaking up free radicals. It's also a high density protein that you can take separately, but it works great with taking it with Boomer Boost. But if you're looking for those strength gains on top of the gains that you get with the heirloom barley, getting the gladiator barley is a great way to control your A1C levels, lose weight, and get healthy, get the nutrients you need, and gain muscle, and really supercharge your metabolism. It's a great combo. You can buy the product separately on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, or you can buy the Longevity Boost box. I've designed that box where you get the Boomer Boost and your choice of gladiator barley or heirloom barley at a discount. So it's better to take the Boomer Boost with the barley. And if you buy the Longevity Boost box, you get it cheaper. In addition, you can still apply the discount 5 to that order and you get additional discount of $5. So I've done a lot to try to find different price points, different ways to stack these things. So I get the products in your hands so you use them and so you get healthy. And you help support my work and you are helping support your health, which is really important for you, right? So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the products that I've offered. Please share the links of the videos. I'm going to repost this live stream. I apologize for the problem that I had with live streaming on Rumble. I'm not sure why the Rumble Studio wasn't working today for me, but hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to live stream the YouTube channel and the Rumble channel at the same time. Thank you for listening. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the products, use discount 5 and you get $5 off. Thank you for listening and have a nice day. For the ones that have been on X Spaces, thank you for listening. I greatly appreciate it.